Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, Nevada, site of Wrestlemania IX. Here is your host, Moody and Groo, brother.
Oh, shut the fuck up already.
I am ready. That's my throaty Vince McMahon. We are pumped up. It is the Festival of Friendship, better known as Nothing Worthwhile. Back home from Tampa after WrestleMania 37. Unfortunately, live via Zoom. We are not face to face. We are remote. America's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews on the West Coast. Your host and moderator Evan Moody on the East Coast. In the sunshine state of Florida, Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the world. I am doing just fine. It's Saturday. It's the month of May, the merry month of May, and you know what that means.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I was looking for something from you, but I'm doing fine. Thank you.
I would say that we're both educators. I always looked at the month of May as the last complete month of the school year.
Oh, God.
No?
Well, yeah. It certainly is that. It's going to be a very interesting month for educators to see where this dumpster fire of a year ends everybody up. But look, it is what it is. Say everybody's in the same boat. So, but I'm feeling fine. The weather's great. So, of course, I'm inside all afternoon. But everything's going well. Everything's going well. How about you?
Weather actually in Phoenix is beautiful today. Not too hot. Nice little breeze. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like Florida. I mean, has it gotten hot? Because the last couple of days, the temperature has definitely stepped up during the day, where it's like we're probably hitting 90s. I don't know about Florida, but we're definitely
it's been in the 90s. It's been in the 90s consistently during the day, but it's not like it's not very humid, or at least it doesn't seem to me like it's manageable. Like I don't mind it, So
is it one of those things like as soon as you get out of the shower, literally
you start sweating,
sweating again?
You know what? I find that kind of happens in the morning, like because I have the air on at like 50, so I shower and I get dressed and it's the air's blowing, so it's really nice. It's really nice and cool inside.
Like your power bill? Do you do like a budget, or you just pay out whatever you use?
What do you mean?
Whatever you use. Well, you could do like a budget plan where. This way, like over the summer, you don't get these phenomenal bills of like $300, $400.
Oh no,
you do like a budget where they average out your usage and kind of do like a median number.
No, I've never done that. I've never had to because my electric bill is usually about the same every month, and it goes down probably about $20 during the summer. My average utility bill is like between $70 and $90 a month.
Oh, very good.
But I'm one person in an apartment, who has every light and everything on all the time, every TV, everything. But like every day, I'll leave the house and I'll put the temperature up to like 78.
That's right. I do that too.
And that's where I'll leave it over the summer. So if it gets hotter than that inside, which it usually doesn't. Right. I don't know why, but
when you come back from camp, Is your apartment like? Is it like moss? Is it like the rainforest? Do you walk in and is there trees growing in the middle of?
Surprisingly, no. Every year I expect it to be. First of all, I'm just glad that it's still there, that it hasn't burned down or been repossessed or something. But no, it's always been. Well, look, it's been 2 years at this point. So, but it's always pleasantly awaiting my arrival. So.
All right, Groo, let's get to it. Before we get to our final thoughts in regard to WrestleMania 37, it is 5 things that we are talking about this week. Groo, hit us up. It's nothing worthwhile. The week that was.
Nothing worthwhile. The week that was.
Oh, okay, sorry. I missed the cue there. My bad. The week that was is brought to you by New You Life Center, recently named by Phoenix Entrepreneur Magazine as a top 15 med spa to watch in 2021. They just got their lasers. They're laser ready. Also some laser treatments. Marie, Dr. Cynthia, and Logan, the new addition to the team. So give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them that Moody and Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off on your first service. Want to thank Marie, Dr. Cynthia, and Logan. A big thank you to New You Life Center. Grew nearly 18 years after its release. The School of Rock proved it still strikes a chord as social media fans lauded Jack Black and its flick for body-positive messaging. The praise comes as a musical is slated to premiere on Netflix on May 1st. In the key heartwarming scene, Jack Black's wacky teacher, Dewey Finn, convinces stage fright-stricken student Tamika that she can be a star despite her weight. Tamika, you got something everyone wants, the pick of Destiny star said, 51 years old. You got talent, girl. You've got an incredible singing voice, and I'm not just saying that. He analogizes her similarly to heavy singer Aretha Franklin. A recent Twitter poll found that the Nacho Libre star was hotter than Hollywood heartthrob Chris Pratt. I don't know about that one, but in the scene, Tamika inquires, why don't you just go on a diet? Dewey Finn responds, because I like to eat. Is that such a crime?
Exactly.
The rocker and actor has always embraced his body. Now Twitter users are fully appreciating the message that he sent to his young fans in School of Rock. One fat accepting commentator wrote, it was so effing hard to be a teen girl in the 2000s because it was very much about thin, skinny, etc. There was not even the perfunctory, sexy, thick talk yet. And this movie and this scene were amazing. School of Rock has aged really, really well, tweeted Morgan Jerkins, the New York Times bestselling author of Call Baby. Jack Black is a testament to living and loving who you are as a person. School of Rock is a Moody favorite. Groo, it's heading to Netflix. Thoughts on the 18-year-old flick, School of Rock?
Has it been 18 years? That's a great movie. I love School of Rock. School of Rock is hilarious. And Jack Black is great. I always thought they should have, I don't know, not a sequel, but they just kind of left it there. You know?
I think they've done a lot of, I know there's a lot of YouTube, and I don't know if they're documentaries, but they've definitely followed up with the cast years later. And I think they've even performed semi-concerts or a club date or two, as the School of Rock band. But, yeah, definitely it's a Moody favorite. I'm hearing it's a Groo favorite.
Yes.
What'd you love about the movie so much?
It's one of those, how I describe. There are 2 movies I describe this way. The other one is actually Ace Ventura, and I remember because when I describe, because you and I saw Ace Ventura together years ago in Queens, I believe, and I remember we were just grinning and smiling and laughing from the first second to the last moment. And I look at that. I look at School of Rock in the same vein. It's just a joy to watch and enjoy, and it's funny, and the soundtrack is great. Jack Black is great. The cast is great. It's one of those movies that I call a perfect movie, meaning that it might not be the greatest movie ever made, but there's not one wasted second of screen time. Meaning everything that you see matters. Everything's important. There's nothing gratuitous. And it's just nonstop fun. And School of Rock is one of those like elite ones for me. I could name you a few on another podcast, but a few others. But it's what I call a perfect movie, and I've always stood by that since I saw it.
So the article talks about the movie has aged really, really well. I agree. I mean, I think you agree as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's still incredibly watchable. You said that the actual movie is coming to Netflix, or there's like a new show or something?
I think it might even be on. The article I had said May 1st. I think it may even be on. Well, today's May 1st, but it's either on Netflix already or going to Netflix, School of Rock.
Well, the funny thing about me is that I have Netflix, and I have Hulu, and I have Disney, and I have them all. And I also own School of Rock on like Vudu and all that. So no matter where it goes, I'll be able to watch it. And I watch it at least once or twice a year. It's just, it's just happiness. Oh God, it's
good.
That sounded so trite.
Jack Black's amazing. The kids are amazing.
They are really. They really are. I'm surprised that that you don't hear about them, about some of them being, more successful as actors or even musicians. One of the girls is real. No, I can't say that.
Yeah, well, maybe it's a good thing we don't hear too much about them, knowing what we know about child actors and whatnot. Groo, moving on, everybody must get stoned.
Dylan.
In honor of the official pot holiday, April 20th, 420, an organization repping country music and marijuana enthusiast Willie Nelson is imploring President Joe Biden to declare the time a national week of cannabis celebration. An online petition to legitimize the high holidays currently boasts 4,000 signatures. The document, penned by the iconic singer Texas-based concert team Luck Reunion, reads, "The fine people of Luck, Texas, and supporters of the great Willie Nelson, on behalf of all cannabis users around the nation, are writing you today to ask you to consider declaring the 9 days spanning of April 20th to April 29th as a official national holiday, the high holidays." They decided on the April 29th end date, so the holidays would dovetail with the multi-platinum Grammy winner's birthday. The uproarious plea concludes by asking Biden to please puff puff and pass this to your friends in Congress for consideration. In 2019, Willie Nelson actually announced he was taking a break from smoking the stuff to preserve his lungs. He later clarified that he would still be partaking in edibles and vaping. Willie Nelson and company hope that the high holidays will shed light on the, quote, many benefits of cannabis while helping to remove the unjustified stigma surrounding this amazing plant. Groo, should we make 420 a high holy day?
No, there's no reason to. It's already there. It's already people do what they do. I think we got more important things to do than make a new holiday out of that. Just let people do what they're going to do. No worries. I mean, Did I ever tell you my marijuana brownie story? You did, but I think our audience would love to hear it again. Well, first of all, by the way, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. This is silly at best. We don't need a 420 high hole. I mean, it's like one of those unofficial teen days, like, senior cut day. And it's almost urban legend at this point in our country. Real quick, my brother ended up going in the hospital during COVID. He did not have COVID, but he had another ailment, so to speak. And he said to me, "Hey, can you go to my apartment and pick up my laptop and some clothes?" So it was like around 12 o'clock, and I'm like, damn, I'm kind of hungry. So I go into his fridge, which I shouldn't have done. It's your brother, mi casa su casa. Come on. I grab, it looks like a packaged brownie from like a grocery store. It's blister sealed. It's like in plastic that you got to rip open. Looked like it's got an alarm code on it. You have to. Yeah, right. It had a numerical code. It's got that thing that buzzes when you like to keep it from being stolen. So yeah, nothing odd about it at all. Yeah, I opened it, like ink sprayed all over my face. Apparently,
So of course, I go in my car and I wolf this thing down in 3 seconds. I chug the Coke. I go to the hospital and they let me just
Wait,
drop
he had
off
cocaine in there?
No, Coke.
I ate Coke. All Coke. Oh, all right.
Coca-Cola.
Oh, Coke.
Come
well,
on.
no, you don't. You usually don't drink that stuff. So you know.
No. Well, I had it. I had a Coke and
Coke and a brownie. I gotcha.
I'm about 3 blocks away from my house, and I go, "Whoa, wait a second, hold on. This feeling feels vaguely familiar. I feel like I'm back in my 20s at a Grateful Dead concert. Whoa!" I go, "I didn't do anything. I'm like, "Oh my God, the brownie." I go into my house. Marie's like, "Quick, drink this water and go for a cold shower." And I went from like the giggles to like I was out of my ever-loving mind. I mean, I was in a Pink Floyd movie. I was like, and Marie's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Take me to a hospital." She's like, "No, I'm not taking you to a hospital." And yeah, I mean, she literally had to carry me to the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and I was probably just an ugly mess. And the next day, I didn't even feel much better, but somehow I got it together to go to WORK, and then it took another day before I felt back to normal. But yeah, that's my brownie story.
Well, that happened to my brother.
As the downloads are shrinking.
Well, quickly, that happened to my brother when he went to his fiance's then fiance's house for the first time. He got up in the middle of the night and was hungry and ate the wrong thing and had quite the adventure. But the other day, a colleague of mine, who of course will remain nameless, but told me a story from a couple of years ago where he was with his family at a wedding, and on the way home from the wedding, he had what he thought was a major heart attack or stroke. He was slurring his words. He was he's a guy who's never done this kind of thing before, and so him and his family are they're all worried. They're going to the ER. And they're asking, "What did you eat?" He's like, "I ate the same stuff you guys ate, like everything." So to make a long story very short, what had happened was he missed the memo for everybody not to eat the wedding cake because apparently the people who were getting married were big potheads, and they requested that their wedding cake be one giant edible, and that's what happened.
Can I just say they're assholes?
I agree.
I would never be friends with those people again. I would disown them and be like, "How dare you?" I mean,
they did make an announcement for nobody to eat the wedding cake. But you're right. No, you're right. That's like the most selfish, silliest.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just the way they told me the story was just funny because. You save till the end. Like, how did this happen? How did this happen? And then of all the things, I've never quite heard of that one. But I agree with you on that one.
I'm pulling the gloves off today. I'm going to be that just angers me. Wrestlemania IX. I got a few other.
Just announce. You know what? If you eat the wedding cake, just let you know you're gonna have some fun. At least just let them know that.
Apparently, this guy didn't hear the announcement. You got to do more than announce.
I agree.
You got to have somebody, the servers, and somebody who, if you have to walk up and get a piece, somebody there telling everybody.
Don't eat it. Right.
You got to dot your I's and cross your T's. Well, look, this is a good dovetail because the next item, Groo, is Ellen DeGeneres had her first interview on Jimmy Kimmel since her toxic workplace scandal.
Right.
And she told Jimmy Kimmel about some 420 friendly stoner stories that she had drank some weed drinks, and apparently her and her girlfriend or her wife had to go to the hospital. She talked about her charity work, but she did not even go near the allegations of her toxic behind-the-scenes antics. And that's not because, Groo, she wasn't asked him because she refused to answer questions about it. The topic never came up. And, the article goes on to say it's really impossible at this point to separate the talk show host from these very sort of severe accusations. But as we know, Stern Show friend Kimmel avoided the topic entirely, a surprising choice for the late-night host who, over the years, has become more political and used his show as a platform to call out injustice in government, healthcare, and more. The article says Kimmel's softball interview approach raises the question of whether Ellen DeGeneres only agreed to do this appearance under the condition that there would be no questions in regard to this scandal. Groo, if you need a refresher, Ellen DeGeneres wasn't even accused of just being rude to a few staffers. There were stories claiming that people were not allowed to make eye contact with her and that her be kind mantra is all an act, to troubling allegations of racism and sexual harassment. Following a bombshell BuzzFeed report, 3 executive producers from the show were fired in last July. DeGeneres Groo addressed the reports after they first came out, apologizing to her staff and even opening the new season of her show with the scandal, telling her audience, "I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show." Groo, did James Kimmel waste an opportunity to get a more unfiltered response from Ellen DeGeneres?
No, it's exactly what I would expect from Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, he's hard on the people who are not on his political side of the aisle, but he's going to leave the liberals alone, which I am, by the way, but that doesn't mean that I'm okay with someone like Jimmy Kimmel going soft on Ellen DeGeneres. No, I wanted to see Ellen on that show because I want to hear about her charity work. That's what interests me about Ellen DeGeneres. Well, number one, I haven't watched Jimmy Kimmel in like 5 years, and I will not.
Agreed.
I'm not interested because of things like that. He seizes on every moment, every national tragedy, every little thing to get out there on his little soapbox and do a tear-drenched thing, comparing it to something from his childhood, instead of just being a goddamn talk show host. So finally, he has a chance to be a talk show host. He's got somebody who's got some controversy with him. I think back to like Jay Leno and Hugh Grant all the way back then. Okay, and that was the first question he asked him. What were you thinking? You know, when you picked up the whatever it was. But you have Ellen DeGeneres on. Oh, all right. So we're just going to promote her show like a run of the mill guest. There's nothing to see here. Nothing to talk about. Just another reason that, well, I really don't watch any late night anymore. There's nothing worth watching. Maybe sometimes Colbert makes me laugh, but never beyond like the first 15 minutes. So unless like one of my favorite people are on a show, I'm not going to watch it. And Jimmy Kimmel did exactly what I would expect him to do with that. And that's. Yeah,
that's
pathetic. That's pathetic. I mean, if you and I ran into Ellen DeGeneres on the street, okay, would we be all gushy and would we be like, "Oh my God, Ellen, we love you so much," or would we be like, "What the fuck have you been saying to your people?" Actually, we'd probably pussy out.
Well, I don't know if I would confront the celebrity.
I know.
I probably wouldn't even go over to say hello because I have nothing per se against Ellen. It's just not my style. Right. Even when her comedy was never my style that I enjoyed, and her television show I never got into. So she's kind of celebrity non grata to me. It's not where I would spend my pop culture time. Nothing against her. I don't find her talk show to be. I don't like that daytime kind of path anyway. But I couldn't agree with you more on Jimmy Kimmel. Now,
I do find her funny though. As a stand, she is funny.
Oh Lord!
I do find her funny. I don't watch her. I don't watch the
show. First you hit me over the head with your neoliberal. Fine, I love you. Fine.
That was on Jimmy Kimmel though. That was on Jimmy.
Now you're gonna double hit me with you find her comedy to be her stand up to be funny. Actually, I'll say I find her television show to be. I've seen some clips on YouTube that are mildly interesting. Like she has like a little kid who'll be like, "Daddy made a poopy," and the audience will laugh. And I'll find that maybe sort of mildly amusing. But her comedy, no, never appealed to me. I was always more for the edgy.
I'm talking about like when she hosts the shows and like the Academy Awards and stuff. She's pretty good at that stuff. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Her stand-up type stuff, but not her TV show and all that.
All right, I'll give you a slight disagree on the stand-up, but yeah, sure, she's definitely a competent television personality, and you could do probably a lot worse with her hosting.
But I'll bet that. By the way, Go ahead.
But by the way, nobody watches anyway. I mean, all this stuff.
That's true. But I'll bet that she had a mandate. I'll bet that it was her who said we're not going to talk about that. And if I'm Jimmy Kimmel, I'm like, then you're not coming on. That's what I would have been like.
I guess the sad part is Kimmel was involved years ago with like the Man Show, which was, I won't say it was revolutionary television, but it was a little naughty and cutting edge for
damn right. It was great.
And he's sort of become a very kind of safe. All right, look here's let me get your take on this, because I think you'll have something to say about this, Groo. And the sad news in the world of music: Jim Steinman, the mastermind behind some of pop music's most epic ballads of the past 40 years, has passed away at the age of 73, still very young. The Grammy Award-winning hitmaker who collaborated on chart toppers such as, we've discussed, Meatloaf, Celine Dion, Bonnie Tyler, Barbra Streisand, Def Leppard, and more, died last Monday in Connecticut. Groo, his death comes after an undisclosed medical emergency occurred 3:30 a.m. last Sunday, according to the state medical examiner's office. Steinman's Paradise by the Dashboard Light and other songs made the bulk of Meatloaf's 1977 blockbuster record, Bat Out of Hell, which went on to be one of his best-selling albums and best-selling albums of all time. The pair continued to work closely for Volumes 2, which included 1993's I'll Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That, and Part 3 of the rock music series. The karaoke mainstay Total Eclipse of the Heart helped launch Welsh singer Bonnie Tyler to legendary status in 1983. Groo, Steinman received the Grammy in 1997 for writing on Celine Dion's Falling Into You. Love that title. Yaha. The enigmatic songwriter was known for drawing inspiration from the arts. His song, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, most famously performed by French-Canadian icon Dion in 1996, was said to be inspired by Emily Brant's Wuthering Heights, blah, 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 blah. Steinman later received his first and only Grammy in 1997 for writing on Dion's album, Falling Into You. Grew in 2004. A stroke sadly left Steinman temporarily unable to speak. He spent years relearning how to use his voice, according to a speech he delivered at Amherst College in 2013. Steinman's exact cause of death, when we got the notes, was not yet at least revealed. Groo, I know he's a favorite of yours. Thoughts on the sad death of Jim Steinman at the age of 73?
Yeah, very sad, but, what a life well lived. I mean, I know he had been ill for a while. I knew about the stroke. His work with Meatloaf, we know about that, but you named so many other ones, like Total Eclipse of the Heart, Power of Love. He wrote the theme song to the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling comedy.
Our next item is actually wrestling related, which I think you'll have.
But Steinman, I mean, I was actually going to mention to you when we were talking about our next week's topic. I was going to ask you what you would have thought if Jim Steinman were to produce that album that we're going to be talking about next week. And I was thinking that before he died. It was like 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the album. Let me
ask you this. Am I wrong to say that, because, I am a Meatloaf fan. I would think Groo is definitely a more intense Meatloaf fan. I have a superficial and a little bit, a little bit more of an understanding. I have enjoyed Meatloaf's stuff. Is part of Jim Steinman's legacy, I feel like he brought a theatrical flair to popular music and rock and roll.
Yeah, if you look at all of his songs, his songs are very theatrical. His songs are like mini operas. And there's really nobody else who writes like that. I mean, even like a song like Holding Out for a Hero from Footloose, that was his. These songs are they're the rare combination of being very deep emotionally and very radio friendly. And I'm trying to think of the exact timing of it, but when Meatloaf, after the first Bat Out of Hell, Meatloaf kind of lost his voice for a little while, because they were going to do a follow-up immediately. And because Meatloaf couldn't really sing, Steinman made an album of his own called Bad for Good, which contained a lot of songs that would later show up on Bat Out of Hell's 2 and 3. And even though he couldn't really sing very well, you could see that the songwriting was just, I mean, it is what it is. It speaks for itself. So Steinman, I know he was in the middle of like possibly producing like a Bat Out of Hell musical. He just the guy had an insane kind of wacky talent that only one in a million have, maybe even more than that. So yeah, definitely rest in peace, Jim Steinman. But he left us with a treasure trove of great music.
I don't want to belabor this point too much, but has Meatloaf made any official statement on Mr. Steinman's death?
I wouldn't say official. I've seen him quoted in some magazines and some interviews, but there hasn't been
Inform me. I'm curious what Meatloaf. Did he have a rocky relationship towards the end with Steinman?
Well, like they had not towards the end. They had some bumpy years in the middle. But then they got together again to produce, I think, what was Meatloaf's last album, which was already 4 or 5 years ago. It was called Braver Than We Are. Wasn't very good, but that's probably because I think it's because Meatloaf really can't sing anymore. Like I appreciate the effort, but the writing was as always impeccable. But Meatloaf has been saying, how heartbroken he is, and he said he had spoken to him recently. Like, it's basically like a Daltrey and Townsend kind of thing.
Yeah, I think actually the title was "Braver Than We Are," parentheses, but are we truly brave?
He does. Steinman did have that.
I remember going with you to see Meatloaf, I believe, at Nassau Coliseum, and the whole ride there, we just made fun of the songs, but we just riffed up. We just did like songs with parentheses, like "I'd do anything for love, but I like you less." Just all right. Anyway,
it's like make a left on Eisenhower Parkway, but don't if you don't want to, and like whatever it was,
And every song was 15 minutes. It was a sweeping theatrical.
They were exactly what you would expect them to be.
I remember enjoying the show. So, Groo, I'd like to get your take on this.
Yeah.
A trashy story occurred last week when the WWE fired head of talent relations Mark Carano from the company after Mickie James, who was released, went public on Twitter saying she received her belongings in a trash bag. According to Fightful Select, Mark Carano was identified as the point of blame in the trash bag incident that he had sent out all the items to release talent in trash bags. Many in the company had expressed remorse over the trash bag incidents. It was said that the situation was taken care of as quickly as possible and that it should have never happened. Stephanie McMahon made it clear that the person responsible is no longer with the company on Twitter. Carano's role in WWE was largely taken over by Johnny Ace. That's Johnny. He's returning. He's back with the company. Johnny Ace. I forget his last name. He's married to the Bella Twins' mother. He is now officially. Carano is now officially out of the WWE. Let's see here. Mickie James Groo isn't the only person who received their belongings in a trash bag either. Maria Kanellis also revealed that she received a care package in the same way after her firing last year. Major story with major firings. Groo, this can't be the right way to treat talent, right?
What? I'm surprised you feel that way. Like, are you telling me that these people got fired and this other person got fired for returning their shit to them? And they're upset that it wasn't in the right bag? Would it have made them feel better if it was in a nice WWE bag with some diamonds on the end and some handles?
Maybe.
They just got fired. They didn't get a promotion. They got fired for whatever reason. But look, hold on. Okay.
They got released. We know. Let's put this a little bit in context. It's not a firing per se for performance. It's a firing because the WWE, in their eyes, has a massive roster, and these are people that were not, for the most part, not being used. So they were let go. They were released. My only point is, I've listened to a couple things on Busted Open, and I'm not going to disagree that there's some kernel of truth to what you're saying, but I do believe, maybe shockingly enough to you, that people should be treated respectfully even on a release or a firing, and I think it's a bad look to be sending people stuff in a garbage bag. Here's let me just say one other thing.
Okay.
The WWE was under no obligation to return anything per se. It's they're gone. They have, I guess, perhaps no or limited access to facilities. So I think it was nice that they do send the people's stuff. However, I think it's a bad look, and maybe it should be in a clear. I don't know how it should be packaged, but I think a trash bag is kind of, especially Mickie James, who was a 3-time women's champion, been part of major storylines, WrestleManias. I'm not going to discount that there's not a nugget of truth in what you're saying, but I think it's a bad look. I do.
Yeah, well, I guess now what we do today is when we're upset, we don't go to the source of that trouble. We go to Twitter and we bitch about it, and that's how things get done. And like, if she was upset with the way it was, she should pick up the fucking phone and call whoever she knows there and say, hey, come on, that's a little messed up. All right, but no, she's like, you know what'll be great? If we go to Twitter, then I'll get my revenge. Like, Jesus Christ, grow the hell up. Yes, it's not a good look. Yes, it's not cool. But it's number one, it's not going to get your job back. Number two, why would you want to cost somebody else their job? That's such a bitchy thing to do. I'm sorry. Come on. And even if they did do that, okay. And the guy who did it, Corrado, is that who you're saying? Is that his name?
Mark Corrado. Yes.
So you admonish him publicly, all right? But you don't fire the guy for shipping people's items back in the wrong packaging, unless that packaging said "F you, go to hell" or whatever. Come on, what's happening to us? I mean, Jesus Christ, give me a break.
Wow,
am I wrong?
You've done a 180. Maybe I'll be like, yay Biden and soft and fuzzy.
No, but it's not even that. It's like if I have a problem.
I'm joking with you.
No, I know that. But
hold on, I said to you that what you're saying, there's a kernel of truth to it. I don't disagree. People do this all the time. As a matter of fact, it just happened at my workplace this week where somebody put an email, CC'd a lot of layers, and actually it wasn't to me, but I was on a chain, and I went back to that person and said, why didn't you speak to that person individually before you put that person on blast? So I agree with you, Groo. I think the proper way, if you're not looking for PR, and clearly I agree with you that Mickie James is looking for a Twitter and online sympathy, sure.
Yeah.
But I think for a major corporation that's worried about PR and their looks, like the World Wrestling Entertainment, should have known better. I don't think sending stuff in a trash bag is a good look. I am not discounting what you're saying. I agree with you, and I think, everybody's got to get a tissue, wipe their eyes, and fucking man up a little bit. But I still think if I'm Vince or Stephanie, I got to let people know we want to. That's just not a good look.
But that's also on them, though. They should have some kind of protocol then. All right? But you don't fire the guy. You put out a memo saying, okay, from now on, here's what we do when somebody is shit-canned. All right? We send them to them in a nice WWE travel bag. Put out a memo saying this is the protocol. Instead of making up the protocol because Mickie James is upset on Twitter in public, and then firing the guy. You don't fire the guy for that unless there's more to it.
You know what she said afterwards? This will get you.
Is this true, or are you messing with me?
No, this is true.
Okay.
I read this. Look at the hairs on the back here.
Okay, go ahead.
On the back of your back, standing up. She then said the WWE glorifies 40-year-old males in their company in position, but doesn't do the same for females. So she's saying,
really?
they'll hold on. They'll send out a Cena and Edge who are clearly well over 40, but Mickie James at 41 no longer has a spot.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a theory about that. It's because Cena and Edge might make the WWE tens of millions of dollars, and Mickie James, how many asses does she put in the seat? So guess Moody's dancing right
Although,
now. So guess what?
I do love.
Not everybody is treated the same.
I agree with you, and I think this is gonna. I don't want to open up but I've always said that in comparison to like the WNBA and the NBA. You know, these Title IX. You know, like the women's soccer team. Apparently, they were pay disparity, and I do believe nothing per se against gender, because I enjoy women's sports. Groo knows I like women's wrestling.
Yeah.
But I agree. If Mickie James brought in millions of dollars and main evented Mania, per se, she'd still be around. Although I do love her WrestleMania against Trish Stratus. I love that storyline, the obsessed fan, and the whole. Yeah,
but my question to you. But my question to you is.
All right, please don't take me down the road.
I won't. No. I won't. But Mickie James is making this complaint. Okay, so fine. But let's say it was you. Okay, would you expect me as Vince McMahon to put you on television, even though I know nobody's watching you, paying money, advertising revenue that's going to go down because, you know, there's a reason that they don't put Curtis Axel on the opening part of Raw instead of Roman Reigns. Why? Because Roman Reigns draws in viewers, draws money, sells merchandise. What does Curtis Axel do? Nothing. Okay? Mickie James had her time, but she's not one of the top stars. That's why she's not on TV as much as these guys. So what is she trying to say?
I think she's probably trying to say in her own kind of disjointed way is your system, I'm going to go down there, your system is not equitable, meaning you're going to give opportunities to guys well past this age.
Who make money.
Okay, hold on. You asked me a question. To headline and to be in major storylines, and I wasn't even given that opportunity. So I was never allowed to be placed in a main event storyline or a main storyline where I could have perhaps shown my worth. There, I said it.
You have to get up to that point.
I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't necessarily agree with it. You
There's no way you agree with it. I think you agree with me 100%. This is all bullshit.
I do, but I'm for the Green New Deal, and I mean,
that's awesome.
Look, real quick, I'm eating. This is not marijuana infused. This is.
How do you know that? Is that new you center trail mix right there?
No, it's the perfect bar. It's peanut butter. I love peanut butter. I mean, do you want to go down this road real quick? It's not on my notes. Do you want to discuss the New York Post article on Howard Stern?
Yes.
Or you want to just?
Yes. Sorry, everybody out there, but
thoughts, and I'm going to be really angry. So I'll give it to my boy first. Let me just set it up. Tuesday morning, I couldn't believe it. Let me tell everybody my routine. I get up about 4:15 a.m. West Coast time. I go downstairs. I set up my workout area, my kettlebells, my mat. I then open up my computer. I drink black coffee for about 30 minutes to motivate myself to work out, and I read CNBC, Fox Business, New York Daily News, New York Post Online, ESPN. I may even look at a wrestling website or two. I take about 30 minutes to wake up, and lo and behold, Maureen Callahan, who's a major writer, not only in pop culture, a major writer, just absolutely torches not even the Stern Show, Howard Stern, and really calls the show, officially the tone of the article is The Death of Stern. Groo and I could talk about the specific details. Andy, I'll throw it to you. We got still a lot to cover, so let's keep it time capped, but your thoughts on the New York Post article, Howard Stern, essentially the show is dead.
Well, first off, I find it interesting that even though you're 3 hours behind me, you still get up before I do. I'm still snoozing away at 7:15 a.m. while you on the West Coast are up at 4:15 drinking coffee and reading.
No, you're up. I know you're up. So.
When I read the article, and I read it on your suggestion, when I read it, I said, she's right. This is everything we've been saying. Is it not? It's everything you and I have been saying. Are you agreeing with me? There's not.
Well, first of all, I didn't say anything to you, actually. No,
it's everything we've been saying for a while. That's what I mean.
A certain mutual friend texted us, and I didn't even care to respond. I love that friend, but I wasn't going to get into a text. His view was it was a hit piece, and it wasn't, in a sense, a hit piece. But all you really have to do is know that Tuesday morning it wasn't even addressed, and the old Howard Stern would have taken on that criticism head on, and
that right there is everything that the article is talking about. The fact that he didn't address it, okay, that's the problem. To me, that's the genesis of the problem with the show. And there's very little, if anything, that I disagreed with in that article. I didn't reread it because I didn't know if we were talking about it today, but.
No, I was reading it, and I was just absolutely stunned. Absolutely stunned. And there's so many points to the article. It's too.
Well, what were you stunned by, though? Were you stunned that they wrote it, or of the revelations in it?
The bluntness, and just putting everything out there.
Right.
And again, I say to any fan of Howard and you can fucking. By the way. Blow me up on Facebook on our Nothing Worthwhile page because I don't care. Look, evolve political position, fine. But there's no fan from 1988 on or whatever time looks at the show today and goes, oh, it's better than ever. And I find that just to be it's an opinion, but I see it as just not factual. Again, I guess what set her off was, and I didn't hear this live. I didn't hear it at all because, like Andrew, I don't listen much to Howard live these days. I'll listen to 101 and enjoy those best of clips, sure. But he said something to the effect of he's not going back into the studio. He's staying in his little bunker in his multi-billion-dollar mansion in the Hamptons, or perhaps he's even in West Palm Beach, Florida, and he's going to do the show. And, the show... It doesn't even hit 4 hours anymore. Apparently, he's closer to 3 hours. No news, no explanation as to why. It just sounds like he's phoning it in. I've even read that people are questioning publicly the amount of the contract that Howard likes to put out there, that he's getting hundreds, more than Joe Rogan or perhaps the one or two big podcasters or broadcasters that are still left. I've said enough. I don't want to get into every minutiae detail, but I was stunned as to we've had articles before, people criticizing Howard, but I mean, this one laid literally everything out there that a hardcore Stern fan like you and I believe, have felt over the course of the last almost 10 years.
Yes, and like I said, there's very little in it that I disagreed with, if anything, and I just want to add one more thing. Another symptom, or another symptom that he's not, that article is right, is the fact that if he is staying home, if he is not coming in and going into work, why does it still need to be 3 days? Why can't he do 5 days a week, from his basement? That's a dream job right there. All right, put out a little bit more content. What the hell? Does he have to go adopt more puppies or kittens or whatever? So that when you say that, because I had forgotten that he said that he was not planning on coming back into the studio. I'm like, all right, great, piss on your fans a little more, Yeah. I was actually kind of, I don't want to say relieved, but I was kind of like reading that article, like, all right, finally someone put this shit out there.
Yeah,
I don't root against Howard Stern, but it's tough to root for him right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think rooting against him would seem kind of mean, but Andrew, it's hard.
Yes,
it's hard. I'll say it again, and just bear with me. There was no bigger Howard fan in the 90s than Evan Moody. I bought everything. I went to everything. I bought everything. Literally, when I got serious, I saw I wasn't going to even watch TV anymore. I was going to listen to Howard. Literally, I was such a fan 24 hours a day.
I remember I had to go to your house to listen to Crucified by the FCC. You wouldn't even let me borrow it.
Well, I think I have it still somewhere.
You better. And a collector's item.
By the way, I'm not discounting all those wonderful years of entertainment that I enjoyed. The current show is not for me now. But, again, after Artie left, and then even 2013, where they sort of say Marcy Turk came on board, since that time, even after Artie left, you had a couple of good years. Howard still was, I would say, a little bit edgy or not completely wherever he's at now. 2013, the show is just, and even some of the funny players who were a little bit off the wall, they've all left. I mean, you don't have to love them. Shuley, Brent, some of the guys at least added a different voice. Scott the engineer, they're all gone. Yeah. Sal and Richard are completely muted. Benji. I don't want to get into it. And I
did watch just one more thing on this. I know we're belaboring it, but after we spoke about that, I did watch the entire, what would you call it, summit that he had, where he did the PowerPoint, and I was like,
my God.
I'd seen it before, but never like fully like paying attention, and I'm sitting there like, holy shit. This guy is pissing on the people who have slaved for him, and given what is this? And I'm like, this can't be him talking. It's got to be like Marcy Turk in his ear or something. Like my goodness, what is wrong?
I mean, my biggest takeaways was he was very, very hard on his staff, almost blaming them for his lack of mainstream exposure and getting A-list guests. He certainly made it clear on that summit that A-list guests is where he wanted the show to go. There was some political agenda, really putting forth a very pro-gay agenda. Well, that's fine. Listen, nothing against that. And then I think the other thing was, the staff. Well, okay, the other thing that really struck me was I think something with Twitter and making fake accounts, and and then even the arrogance of Adam Levine would have been nothing without the show, and the Billy Corgan, he started riffing on the celebrities who he felt like benefited, and giving them no credit. It was only the Stern Show.
No more than Letterman or It's a talk show in the end for celebrities to come on and plug their shit. All right, so and guess what? They would have reached more viewers when Late Night was in its heyday than they would have on the Howard Stern show. So I'm not buying that.
For a show that claimed that they never paid any guests, which may or may not still be true, and for a show that attracted guests based on the strength of the show and the unfiltered responses, to see him talk about Twitter and have this very thought out sort of campaign to attract guests was stunning to me. Howard always said, I didn't need a guest. I could just sit and talk for 4 hours, 5 hours on my head. I just.
And now I guess he just can't do that anymore. All right, so at least admit it.
I guess
at least admit it to the public, like Billy Joel does. Billy Joel makes no bones about it. He's like, I don't feel like writing anymore. All right, leave me alone. And then people just accept that and go to his concerts. Howard's still trying to not con his audience, but pretend as if these are the glory days of the show. Absolutely right. At least get on and say, hey, it's a different animal right now. All right, and this is why, and let's move on. Stop bitching and moaning about it. But if you're not going to address it, if you're not going to take the fans that have been with you all these years along with you and treat them as more than just fans, as part of your sort of extended family, and show them a little bit of respect, at least tell them, the method to this madness. But you just keep pretending, and you're going to get articles like that. Articles that longtime fans like us agree with. You don't want that.
Yeah, I can't wait for Monday's show. I could hear about Metamucil crackers.
Yeah, he's not going to touch that article.
Yeah, and his parents yelling and screaming. All right, Grill.
That was touched upon in the article too.
Look for our new channel on Sirius. Nothing Worthwhile 105. We'll take over. We'll rock it to the top. All right, crew. Let us scale back to our last series of podcasts. Nothing Worthwhile was live from the great city of Tampa Bay, Florida, as both Groo and Moody were live in Tampa for WrestleMania 37. We got not one, but two crazy nights of wrestling. We had dinner in Clearwater, Florida at Hogan's Hangout, and we even hit a sparse WrestleCon to chat with the total package, Lex Luger, and the Dragon, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Both guys a class act. Groo listeners did chime in with some comments, all of which were based around our WrestleMania and our heated discussion about WrestleMania moment, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks debate. So, Groo, let's get to it. It's time for, hold on, let me get to it, viewer mail.
Letters. We got your letters. We got your letters every day. Mailman Ding Dong, give me a letter today.
All right, Groo. Nothing Worthwhile viewer mail is sponsored by Sabotage, sponsored by New York Life Center.
That's like a sniglet. That's like a sniglet. Remember sniglets?
Oh, she's just telling me one of the lasers didn't come in with the handpiece. I am so upset. Well, still go to New Life Center, NUYOULifecenters.com, or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Marie, Dr. Cynthia, Logan, a great team over there. 15% off your first service. Thank you to New Life Center. Let's go to our courtesy of our Facebook fan page. You can check out Nothing Worthwhile on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Nothing Worthwhile 1985. Fun listen, especially the Moody retorts after Groo's comments. Bianca was clearly being positioned from the win from the Rumble on, and they've been high on her for a long time. So, I mean, look, we got into a heated debate about WrestleMania moment. Well, Groo, any thoughts, any musings on the WrestleMania 37, either on Bianca, Sasha, or quote-unquote WrestleMania moments from WrestleMania 37? The floor, my friend, is yours.
Yeah, the same. I mean, it's the same as I said before. That moment was terrific, but it's not up there with me with many of the past ones. As far as other Mania moments from this year, there really wasn't much. It was not a great show either night. They could have done.
I'm not buying that, because the first night you were happy.
No. But obviously, it's like when you go to a concert, you walk out, you're still dancing, the music's still there, like whatever. Then it ferments a little bit, and you sit back and say, okay, let's analyze a little more. I saw WrestleMania 37 on the Peacock now, which that should be a whole other show because I'm not enjoying it.
I know. Watching WrestleMania IX.
But in any case, it was a great time being there. But in watching the match and the booking and all that, and watching the matches and the booking, it wasn't a great show. It wasn't a great show. That doesn't mean we didn't have an amazing time. We always do, and we did.
I mean, I'm going to say I liked night one, and given the circumstances.
Oh, I liked it. It just wasn't great. That's my point.
I thought it was a pretty solid for WrestleMania. I mean, it was to me. Reflecting back on it, night one, I was very, very pleased. Would I call it a lights out Mania night one? No, but I was very, very pleased. I remember enjoying most, if not all, of the matches. Really loved the Bad Bunny, Damian Priest, Miz and Morrison deal. Night two, yes, was a different story. They opened with The Fiend and Randy Orton, and it kind of sucked the wind out of our sails, right off the bat. Night one, you got to remember they had that rain delay. The momentum was stopped. You had the great opener with Vince, with everybody on the stage, and sort of an iconic little speech, and then no pyro. Then it's like everybody go underneath, to the mezzanine. So I did enjoy night one. I'll give a slight disagreement with you on that one. Overall, when you sit back and let it ferment, yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 37 is not going to be in the annals of Mania history. But I thought it was under really difficult circumstances, forget the weather, just coming post kind of COVID, limited seating, outdoor stadium. It was tough. It was tough, and I thought they did, I'll say, admirable, especially in light of night one.
I thought as far as the production, as far as all that stuff, they did an excellent job. I'm talking strictly the matches and the booking. But night one, yes, was good. Okay, I remember I said it wasn't great. It was good. But remember, after night one, we were looking at the card for night two and say night two could be epic here, and it was a huge letdown. I
definitely remember.
That's what
you were very clear on the podcast. You were very pro night two on paper. Yes.
Yes, and that was a letdown from the very start with the way it was booked. So looking back at the whole thing, let me ask you this: could this have been an effective one-nighter? Trimming some of those extra matches.
I would say upon reflection, you're probably right. On reflection, at the time, given that they had limited events in the whole WrestleMania week, we liked, or we were, I don't know if liked is the right word, we were pleased that they went to two nights where we weren't going to be there for 6 hours. We were going to be there for 2.5, 3, not be exhausted, not, be blown out, and that we had another day of wrestling. So upon reflection, sure. And I think that's where they're going with, apparently, clearly in Texas. They're going to go to one night schmaz kind of deal. I just hope it's not a 6 hour. I hope they can give me 4, 3.5. I'll take that, but I don't want 6 hours and being there, all day. Couple of more comments, Groo. Almost was like a young, not crippled Andre and didn't do anything but giant stuff. I'll give my thoughts on Almost first. The Almost AJ Styles New Day match. I thought, actually, I agree with the comments. With that being said, the spots that they put Almost in were great. I thought they introduced him very well for a guy who's a giant who really can't do some of the chain wrestling really well. And I was surprised he got a lot of run during the match. He may not have done much per se. I agree with Mike's comments. He did a lot of giant stuff, but I thought he did it well. He did it believable. And he was in the ring they didn't try to hide him. He was in the ring for a pretty decent amount of time. Your thoughts?
Right, yeah. That match was actually better than I expected to be, because I didn't know what to expect at all. You were more informed than I was. You predicted that it was going to be all AJ Styles until the end, and then he's going to tag in Almost, and then Almost is going to get the pin, and that's going to be it. We were both pleasantly surprised that they gave Almost much more to do. That being said, our faithful viewer is not wrong. All right, actually, there are parallels to our topic today, to WrestleMania IX. Not to give anything away, but that was a match that I felt was not WrestleMania worthy. And I can say that about a few of the ones that we're going to talk about today from WrestleMania IX. So, you don't give a guy his first shot at the biggest stage and hope that he comes through. I felt, so was that night one or night two? I think it was night one, right?
Night one. Yeah. And I'll say this. I'm hoping they do big things with Almost.
Yeah, you should.
With that being said, I don't have a problem with it. They've debuted talent before in WrestleMania. I mean, the pressure is on when you're debuting at the show of shows. Hold on, let me finish. And again, I don't disagree with Mike and you. I mean, he's not Dean Malenko. He's not a man of 1,000 holds. But again, the spots that he did as a giant guy were believable. They looked fluid. They looked clean. He didn't miss anything. So and he was in the ring for a decent amount of time. So I was happy with his debut. I won't pick at it too much.
I'm not going to either. But let me ask you this. Does Mickie James have a problem with someone like him being pushed at WrestleMania over her? Does she have a problem with Bad Bunny?
All right,
not even a wrestler.
Right,
well, okay.
Don't get on your high horse. But the next comment is about The next comment is about Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny was better than a lot of indie geeks. Love it. Who are wrestling or small shows over the last few days. So obviously our good friend Mike saying he too was very pleasantly surprised by Bad Bunny, and he was pretty sound in the ring. I'll throw it to Groo first. I think I don't know if you're buying Bad Bunny's new album, but are you a Bunny believer? I mean, the dude did a pretty good job.
I think he
did a pretty good job at Mania.
Yes,
I gotta admit,
he did
it.
He didn't do a pretty good job. He did an excellent job for someone who's never been in the ring.
All right, I like it.
For someone who's never been in the ring before. That being said, no, I'm not going to be buying that album, and I don't want to see him again. Okay, he did what he came to do. All right, they set the whole thing up very nicely with The Miz and John Morrison and Damian Priest, and they had a good match, and now he's off doing his thing. We don't need to see him again. I think it was great for what it was. Anything more would be trying to beat a dead horse. So yeah, that was. We said on our podcast that was the match of night one. I think, didn't we say that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna. Whether I disagree with you, you're going to see Bad Bunny again. I think it's going to be a long time. Let him go do his music thing. Maybe next WrestleMania, maybe he becomes a sort of a part-time attraction. You're going to see him again in the ring. He was too good. I agree with you. You got to pick your spot and be very careful on how you present.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't want him shoved in our faces.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you because that appearance really, I mean, the mainstream media, he really set the bar for sort of celebrity wrestlers appearing on WWE shows, but it did everything that it needed to do. He was excellent. Damian Priest was excellent. John Morrison was excellent. The Miz was absolutely phenomenal. Yes. I mean, to me, Groo and I are both big Miz guys, but to me, the Miz did. I mean, to me, if I'm the WWE, I'm signing this guy to a long-term deal. I want him under the WWE umbrella.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
Till he's 90. Yeah. The guy, you want him to be champion. You want him to be funny. He could be funny. You want him to wrestle serious. You want him to be an over-the-top heel. He could do it. He could do a comedy spot. He could brawl. He could give you some scientific. He's great on the stick, on the mic. I mean, again, I think he's going to be pigeonholed, so to speak, as in terms of his spot. But that guy is a utility player, like a Dolph Ziggler type, even better. If I'm the WWE, I'm just so happy with the Miz's performance. And clearly, he's been given, I won't say main event run, but he's always in the main top 3 storylines on Monday Night Raw moving forward.
And I agree with you on that. I'm good with where he is because he'll be the guy that they go to when they need somebody to elevate, and they'll give him the title for a couple weeks here and there. He'll have his runs, but he's a great supporting character. A great character actor. And that's really what he's interested in. That's what the guy started out as an actor. He started out on the Real World and all that stuff. So that's his thing.
Any truth to the rumor at WrestleMania 38 he's going to wrestle Elon Musk in a steel cage match?
see that I'd be interested in.
I'm joking. So
if Miz wins, everybody gets a Tesla. I think that'd be cool.
Oh, hell yeah. There you go. Yeah. That'd be great. I just see ourselves like the first night we got to go to like a really good steakhouse in like Dallas.
Yes. And I can find one.
All right, WrestleMania 38 in Irving, Texas.
Yes. And I made our reservations. I specifically made our reservations for Los Angeles in 2023.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to be getting our 6-year jackets, so we're looking forward to it. So let's look back, Groo. Today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast, WrestleMania 9 review.
Are you sure it's early? It's only 70 minutes in. Are we ready to talk about our topic?
It's sponsored by our good friends at New You Life Center. Phoenix Entrepreneur named them not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. No, top 15 med spas to watch in 2021. No goal is too big. No journey is too far. Help out my girlfriend, my lovely and talented Marie Verdugo. www.newyoulifecenter.com.
Yeah, come on, guys. Get Moody laid. So can we do this?
Come on, 274-0068. Dr. Cynthia, Marie, Logan, thank the team over at New Life Center. And we do want to, this is actually, Groo, our first listener request.
Really?
Young man from Michigan, I forget his last name, but I believe his first name was Nick, messaged me on Facebook Messenger and said, hey, would you guys break down WrestleMania 9? So I'm not sure how we're going to break it down, but this will be interesting. WrestleMania 9, Groo and I spoke off the air. It's definitely an interesting one. I'm looking forward to hearing my partner's thoughts on not only the matches, but the presentation. So let's get to it, Groo. WrestleMania 9 took place at Caesar's Palace in Paradise, Nevada on April 4th, 1993. It was the first WrestleMania event held outdoors. They did not use the outdoor concept again until WrestleMania 24 in 2008. Because Mania 9 was held in Caesar's Palace, the WWF group promoted the event as the world's largest toga party. The arena was made to look like a Roman Coliseum. The event featured guards and, they had trumpeters and live animals and stand-ins and all sorts of stuff. They debuted Jim Ross. Jim Ross, wearing a toga, by the way. Howard Finkel was renamed Finkus Maximus. Yes, Randy Savage, Bobby the Brain Heenan were also part of the announce booth. So let's take a pause. I'm exhausted already. I got to sip on my water, and coffee. But interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Andy. WrestleMania, Caesar's Palace, 17,000 seat stadium, and then of course taking place outdoors. And then I'd like to hear, your thoughts about sort of a theme for the event. Toga party, some interesting stuff in a sense. Andy, the floor is yours. Mania 9.
Well, in rewatching it, I looked at all of that stuff, the pageantry, because I remember when I've seen it in the past, I'm like, come on, this is the worst stuff ever. And it is pretty bad. However, when you think of WrestleMania is supposed to have that kind of over-the-top ridiculousness. It reminded me of the first one with like Liberace and all that stuff. It reminded me a little bit of the first one. I still didn't like it. Okay, but it didn't bother me as much as it used to. Go ahead.
And if I could add, I'm actually very surprised because it didn't bother me that much either. They've done. I didn't think of WrestleMania 1, but they've done theme shows before. They've done theme Raws. They've done theme SmackDowns. So while I'll say this is a fun, perhaps, miss, I didn't mind it either upon rewatch. I thought it was kind of it was there. I didn't mind it. I didn't love it, but I didn't mind it either. So
well, the crowd was definitely into it. It was gobbledygooker stuff, and it was, in looking at it. Here's my question to you, and we're going to get to it. My question to you is, if the card and the matches were great, would all of that stuff have worked better or have gone down easier?
I guess my biggest thing was I thought the production during the day, it just didn't.
Yes, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
I would take more umbrage with the presentation of during the day than the actual card, because we'll talk about the card. Off air, I said there was some good moments there, so I don't have as much as a problem. Maybe you do. We haven't discussed it, but I thought the presentation during the day was a miss. Yes,
I don't think it looked like the way they wanted it to look. I think it was a failed experiment on many levels, starting with all that stuff.
Yeah, do you feel so this was really before? I mean, this is well before WrestleMania. I mean, it was always the show of shows, but I would say starting about WrestleMania 21 or 22, they really locked in that this was going to be major stadium events. So, I mean, here they're sort of in the embryonic stages. I agree with you. They're probably going to try some things out. You got some hits, you got some misses, but yeah, upon rewatch, the day presentation, not great.
Yeah, and plus, it wasn't. They expected it to be brighter than it was, and it wasn't. So the matches have kind of like it's lighter in the audience than it is on the ring. if you watch it. So that's a little weird. Plus, to me, the death knell for this whole thing is the Jim Ross thing, and I'll tell you why I think that. Because, well, here's why. Again, all right, you don't.
No, this
in my opinion,
take.
Some might argue the exact opposite, but you don't try something out at your biggest show of the year. So this is Jim Ross, Bobby Heenan, and Macho Man Savage on commentary. The first time these guys have really worked together as a team, and you're doing this for WrestleMania, they couldn't have had less chemistry. It was poor. Not that any of them are poor. They just didn't work well together. It was obvious that JR didn't know when to come in. He was a little green. The togas only made things even more ridiculous. But I didn't mind that stuff. I minded the fact that these guys, that if you're going to do that, you should have had basically like Gorilla and Bobby, or Gorilla and I don't know, but it just that like set everything off on the wrong note. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Jim Ross, even back then, was a well-versed, competent play-by-play guy in the world of wrestling. I hear what you're saying. I actually, in some of my notes with the matches, at least in the television presentation, thought that the booth actually helped to make it a slightly more exciting. You had some impassioned calls by Savage, by Heenan. JR tried to play the, annoyed play-by, would you, cut it out, a couple of those kind of riffs. So, again, I would say, hearing your point, it's curious that they would pick Mania to introduce, but I didn't have as much as a problem as perhaps you did.
Yeah, for me, it was a little distracting, but.
Well, distracting also was Hulk Hogan's visibly damaged eye that was explained in storyline as a result of Ted DiBiase, who, by the way, made an appearance on NXT this week. Don't know if you're aware of that.
I was aware. I didn't see it, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, DiBiase hired a group of men to attack Hogan before the match. In reality, the cause of the injury, Groo, has been open for debate. One theory, which I love, is Randy Macho Man Savage punched Hogan in the Canuck because he believed that his ex-wife, Elizabeth Hewlett, was having an affair with Hogan while Savage and Hewlett were married. The couple divorced in September of 92. WWF officials claim that the injury was the result of a jet ski accident. Andrew, we know you know Hulk Hogan, both inside, outside. You are his official biographer. What happened to the shiner on Hulk Hogan?
I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's something that none of us know about, because I think that you know how Vince McMahon loved Hulk Hogan. If Macho Man did that, I think he would have fired him. Number one, you're damaging your prize trophy the night before your biggest show of the year, where he's got to make a big splash. And he's got this huge shiner and stitches on his eye. So if Savage had done that, I doubt we would have seen him in the commentator's seat the next day. Disagree?
I don't know that.
You disagree? Okay.
Yes, because look, there's enough lore where guys have gotten into it where they've not fired. They try to get them together. I think actually, I know Hulkster is a water guy. He's a beach guy. So I could see it really being a legit jet ski accident.
I don't know. You're in a jet ski, and the only thing that gets damaged, you got a black guy that looks like he just walked out of a bar. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
You're right.
But either way, anything that could come out of WrestleMania 9 that takes the focus off the actual wrestling is a good thing. So to speculate on his injury is probably the most interesting part about WrestleMania.
No,
you don't think?
No.
Well, and there are a couple other things. Yeah, you're right.
Well, Groo, one other speculation was I did find notes that said there was a scheduled match between Bam Bam Bigelow and Kamala that was canceled due to time constraints before the event began. And actually, I wrote in my notes, I find this very interesting. Could have been a stinker. But Bam Bam was a big guy that could move even back in the day. Any thoughts on perhaps a potential Mania match at that time between Bam Bam and Kamala?
In thinking about it, I think it's probably best that they didn't do that one. Both guys, I think, were on the downslide of their initial runs. which meant that there would have probably been some runs in the ring at that point. But hey-o.
Speaking of runs, I just drank some black coffee. But you really, hold on. When Bam Bam? Bam Bam was a pretty part of the WWF.
That was his second. That was his second run. He came in the beginning when there was that whole battle for Bam Bam. This was not part of that. He had left and then come back. Kamala was, a mid-carder at best at the time. However, that being said, there are one or two matches that they did have on Mania 9 that I would gladly take Kamala and Bam Bam over. So,
Kamala was such an inspirational gimmick. It's aged really well. There's no problems today.
God,
fact,
imagine them trying to do that today. Yeah, he died.
I don't know if you're a few months ago. He was sad. He had a leg amputated. A lot of problem with diabetes.
Yeah,
his health was just terrible. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm not even sure if Bam Bam's still alive.
No, he's not. He died. He had a drug issue. I think he's from Asbury Park, New Jersey. Yeah.
I remember his. I've always liked he had a he had one amazing match with Taz in ECW where he threw Taz.
Yes, I remember that. Yes,
the barrier broke. All right, look, Groo mentioned it. World's largest toga party. They introduced Gorilla Monsoon, who's almost like a host, literally, for WrestleMania. He kind of just does sort of these in between TV bed spots.
He was introduced by Vince as the host.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even. All right. Well, great. Thanks, Grove, for fact-checking me.
You said it, and I was confirming it.
All right, look, they're going to open up with Diane Carroll singing a rendition of America the Beautiful, and our first match is Intercontinental Champion Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka. Grove, I'll go to the ending, and then I'll throw it to you. I'm not going to go over every minutia of the match. Tatanka was awarded the victory by countout, but of course did not win the championship because titles could only change hands as a result of a pinfall or submission. However, afterwards, Luna Vachon attacked Sensational Sherry after the match, pulling her off the ring apron and gave her a devastating clothesline. Really beat her down pretty good, body slamming kicks. Tatanka had to do a run-in to help Sensational Sherry, but the damage was done. Andrew, give me your thoughts. Opens up with Tatanka versus a young and somewhat pudgy Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, but he was still great. This was a really good match, except for the ending. It should not have been a disqualification. These guys did a good job. They opened the show very well, and then when you do that, you take your two best wrestlers on the card. Definitely one in Shawn Michaels. And just running him right into a brick wall. And then what? Are you trying to do a Sensational Sherry face turn? Like a one-day face turn? I didn't even remember that.
Well, she was a face. She didn't.
No, she had left. She had left DB. She had left Savage, when she was beating the crap out of him after he lost his career. Then she went with DiBiase. She was part of DiBiase's stable, and then DiBiase, quote unquote, sold her to Shawn Michaels. And then, she was the original singer of the Sexy Boy song.
Right, but she did. Listen, I'm assuming in storyline she had a falling out with Michaels, and then she.
I don't remember that.
What I'm reading, she linked up with Tatanka. She was going to prevent Luna. Luna was now escorting Shawn Michaels.
I knew. I thought my recollection was that Sherry had just left. She was gone.
Well, here's what I will say, Andrew. I'm going to give you a couple thoughts. I like your comments, actually. But by the way, Sensational Sherry, very underrated wrestling. Or I don't know if she's I think she was just the bomb. I watch her stuff.
Oh, she was great. Yes, she was terrific.
She could have been just effing amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Two great very solid workers to open the match. I like these guys opening. I did write a somewhat pudgy and clearly on steroids Shawn Michaels. Tatanka hulking up, very solid back and forth. Tatanka's got a great ass, by the way, very, very defined gluteus maximus. But I agree with you, Andrew. Great match with an unsatisfying ending. Tatanka, you can't, winning in a count out. I guess back in the day you could do that at WrestleMania. I don't think you can really do that today, especially with an opening match, which really is your one of your best.
Yeah,
positions.
That was my problem with it.
Luna adding salt to the wound as she assaulted Sensational Sherry afterwards was. I remember she was hitting her pretty snug. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. A good workers, good choice. Ending was kind of garbage.
Yep, agreed. And by the way, I don't know if this is going to sound strange, but I saw Luna in person once. She is much hotter in person than than they make her look on TV. I saw her at that fan festival before WrestleMania X, and I was like, wait a minute, like she's not unattractive. I mean, that's my recollection anyway. So.
Any truth that you said hi, Luna, and she said I'm Ellie Kleinschmidt. I went to Temple Beth Israel, and
didn't I ask you to the prom?
I believe she's passed away as well.
Yeah, she's gone. Sherry's gone.
Lord,
oh my goodness.
Next match, Groo. We got a tag team: the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott Steiner, versus the Head Shrinkers, Samu and Fat 2. Well, the match ends when Scott Steiner performs a Frankensteiner to pin Samu and win the match. Andrew, second match, tag team. Very kind of weird to see the Steiner brothers in the WWF. Andrew, your thoughts on second match of the night?
Well, they had debuted not that long before. This was a night of continuous matches with no heat. There was nothing between these two teams. But I've always said that the Steiners, you put the Steiners in a match against pretty much anybody, and they're going to give you a great match, except the Head Shrinkers. This was a bad match. No chemistry between the teams. Nothing between the teams. There's literally nothing there. You don't care who wins. You just want it to end. At least that was my feeling while watching it. I wasn't interested in this match at all, and it suffered because of it. And I didn't even remember. I watched this thing yesterday and 2 days ago. Like I watched it twice for this, and I still didn't remember what had happened until you told me.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see the Head Shrinkers. They're apparently wearing Samoan-style suspenders. I really love their outfits. It was interesting to see a very young Rikishi squaring off against a very young Scott Steiner. Both guys who turned out to be, you would say, major single stars.
Yes.
5, 6, 7 years down the road. By the way, the referee for the match was ECW stalwart Bill Alfonso.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he was a big-time manager. I thought this was a little stiff, this match. Scott Steiner got thrown over the ropes. It looked like a pretty kind of serious bump. The match was spotty. I thought the ending was terrible. Like, he just Frankensteiners him like right in the middle of the ring. Frankensteiner is not really, you wouldn't off the top rope, maybe that's a finish, that's a pin, but just in the middle of the ring, which is interesting to see, Scott do that move, because we know a couple of years later he's pretty big here, but he's a massive roided up body, some years later.
Yes.
I said it wasn't a bad match. It was hard hitting for that era, a lot of back and forth. I thought Scott Steiner took a lot of punishment.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean about no heat? Like there was no reason, like even if you go back to WrestleMania I, like there was heat there for a lot of those matches.
What do you mean? The SD Jones King Kong Bundy match? There was heat?
No, but but like the Hogan and Piper and Mr. T and stuff, and like
that. You wouldn't say back in the day they would slide one or two filler matches with perhaps. I'm not saying every single mania.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
you would get a tag team perhaps of just two teams just to take up a 15.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The problem with this is that every match seemed to be one of those with no backstory. They seem to be just thrown together, with the exception of, well, we'll get to it because you'll like what I have to say.
I will say the most interesting part was seeing Rikishi and Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were major stars, and I think maybe just because I knew it, my eyes tended to go to both their ways. They clearly Scott Steiner was a good wrestler. Don't get me wrong.
So is Rick.
But Rick Steiner. But Scott was a major star, and Rikishi, yes, was a major star, and you could see that those guys worked the majority of the match. And,
but they just didn't. To me, they just didn't have the chemistry. Like put both teams in with other teams, and you might have something. Put the Head Shrinkers in there with the Natural Disasters, and you have something there. And the Steiners need like the Road Warriors, something like that. But this one, for me, it just didn't mesh, and I didn't enjoy it.
Well, let's go to match number 3: Crush versus Doinky the Clown.
Do we really need to talk about this one?
Well, we have to. Yes, Doink hit the referee, knocked him out. We got a ref bump. He's knocked out. A second Doink the Clown, portrayed by Skinner Steve Kern, comes in, hits Crush with a prosthetic arm, which enables the first Doink, Matt Bourne, to win by pinfall. When the referee regained consciousness, Groo, who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? Please give us your review. Doink versus Crush.
Good Lord, you're talking about filler. There you go. You've got it. Crush was probably thinking, like, I came to WWF for this. Like, and Doink is not, the original Doink was Matt Bourne. He was no slouch. But
he's not a slouch.
But it was not a wrestling match. It was a bunch of pranks. It was a bunch of nonsense. Let these guys go at it hardcore. You've got, Crush, Bryan Adams was not a bad wrestler, and Matt Bourne, Doink, was a very good one. These guys throw away the gimmicks, and these guys can have a great match, but they're getting too involved with the second Doink and all the nonsense, and, I know that's the character, but, again, it didn't mesh with, the two of them together didn't work. Like, Crush wasn't selling the nonsense. It looked like he was just frustrated to me, and I would have been too.
So there's two things that resonated with me with this match. Number one, the mullet on Crush is simply phenomenal.
Oh my goodness!
It's simply phenomenal. I mean, it's Jeff Foxworthy-esque. I mean, it's just one of all.
Which is weird because he was from Hawaii.
Yeah, bro. The other thing is,
brah. He always calls everybody brah.
The other thing is, I looked at Doink.
They're both dead. Oh my god.
Hear me out on this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something a little in depth in terms of wrestling.
Okay.
I want your thoughts. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Please.
Was Doink? I reflect back on it, and I think that was such an amazing gimmick. And I feel like Doink, in a way, was a precursor to some of these sardonic gimmicks like The Fiend, like the Boogeyman. I don't know if I'm getting a little deep or I'm seeing into it too much, but, that was the clown, the evil clown. I know there was different incarnations, but it's a little edgy for its time.
Very ahead of its time, and the more, yeah, you're 100% right. And the more I see, the more I appreciate it. I don't think we appreciated it then, but now with the line between sports and entertainment pretty much non-existent, back then it was not. It was real to us. Damn it. I think Doink. I think they ruined Doink when they turned him face. He was a spectacular heel, and then they turned him into this good guy where he was literally just there as a corner man for Duke the Dumpster Drosy, things like that. They just completely ruined him. I think some of that had something to do with
cut me, Doink.
Yeah, I think that had something to do with. I think Matt Bourne had some issues. I think he got fired or something, whatever. But either way, Doink is very much ahead of its time, and the character and the ideas that they came up with, they just kind of, it might have been too much too soon. But you're right. You're right.
you know that era a little bit better than me. I feel like when Doink, especially when he was in his bad guy phase, like similar to the Miz, he was always in a fairly, and I'm not saying main event, but he seemed to get a lot of television time, like those early Raws. Was that the case? I feel like
I feel like he was pretty
fairly high level a fairly high level storyline.
Never kind of made it to main event status, but
right.
But he was always involved in something. So like kind of Miz-ish, yeah.
Question to you. Clearly, I feel. Well, I'll say it. He should be in the Hall of Fame, right, Don? Is he?
I think so. He's not. I don't think he is, but he should be.
Oh, yeah.
The wrestler should be anyway. Like you put Doink, what he did with Doink, plus the career beforehand of Matt Bourne. I think in the work he did in the territories, he wasn't a headliner, but he was really good. I think you put the two together, and I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
This great sport of ours. Yeah.
I love this sport.
Up next, Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund. 4 minutes, under 4 minutes. Razor pins Backlund with all things a small package. 4 minutes.
I love it when you do that.
4 minutes. Let me throw it to you. I got a couple of thoughts on the match. It's I don't know. 4 minutes. Razor beats Bobby Backlund.
Well, it wasn't as far as wrestling goes, it wasn't a terrible match. It was just like, who are these two guys? The crowd didn't know who Bob Backlund was. Guys like us did, but the crowd there, if you look at it, it's a whole bunch of I call it the Todd Pettengill era. It's Backlund. Yeah. Backlund doesn't really fit into that time. And Razor Ramon, I believe, had just arrived. So here's Scott Hall, who has been super successful in many other territories, who is coming into the WWF at one of their biggest show of the year, and he's got a 4-minute match with a has-been. I think Backlund was initially brought back in as kind of a joke, and then they saw how much the crowd got behind him at the Royal Rumble when he had a long stint in that year's Rumble. So I guess they decided on that, based on that, to put him in WrestleMania. And they needed. It's almost like they spun the wheel and say, okay, who is Backlund going to face? Oh, Razor Ramon. It lands on Razor. What is that, Cyber Monday or whatever they did? They did years later where they let the audience choose what the matches were going to be. That's what this seemed like, because these are two talented guys, but again, for a WrestleMania, it did not work. A 4-minute match at WrestleMania from two mid-carders is not what you want. 4-minute squashes are for the big stars.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm watching on Peacock. I don't even think Backlund got music or any kind of entrance.
No, I think he was in there. I think he was in the ring.
Okay.
I think he was in the ring, and then of course, Razor.
Clearly, the writing's on the wall is going to win. I mean, Backlund comes. I mean, Lord, you're talking about. I mean, not even an entrance.
Yeah.
Guy was a world champion for 4 years. So when I looked at this match, Andrew, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it felt like two different generations in the ring. You're looking at almost two eras. You're looking at Razor Ramon, who's really one of the guys who spearheads sort of the attitude, the next generation phase of WWF, and sort of peels back the curtain. And then you got Bob Backlund, who we know does come back as a Mr. Backlund, which is an edgy gimmick and gets sort of a nice run. Right, but here he's straight up Bobby Backlund, corn, white meat baby face, corn-fed, Nebraska huckster. Watching it, and it's only 4 minutes, it just felt like, wow, we're getting literally two generations, two different styles in the ring. And I thought it was a little sloppy, some missed spots. I wrote, my last comment was, quick match, as it should be.
Yeah, I'm glad it was over quickly. That's the biggest compliment I could give it. I think you got someone who's way past his prime, to somebody who has yet to hit in the WWF. So that's why it didn't quite work. Now, if they gave them more time and gave Scott Hall a chance to sell himself at that thing, then you might have something. But I think they just needed 4 quick minutes to fill up some time. That's what it seemed like anyway.
Oh, thank you for breaking down my comments about two different.
No, I said that. I said you have a guy who's way past his prime and a guy who has yet to hit his prime, and it just didn't quite. You bring those two together. You bring those two together at a different time in the wrestling business, and you have something. For some reason, this period in the WWF was not. It was like the beginning of their sort of downward thing that would go, the downward spiral that would go until like WCW really presented a challenge. This was their Bastion Booger, Nails era. Yeah. So I think they got caught up in that. That's what I think happened here.
Up next, Pedro Morales versus Kevin Nash.
No.
Diesel.
Did Pedro Morales ever get into a WrestleMania? I don't think so.
No, but here's my question: did he ever get in, even at a Royal Rumble where he got
I feel like he was like a surprise entrant in one. He died. He passed away recently, also. But for a guy who had won, he was like their first Triple Crown guy. He won their.
He was very, very popular. Some people say he was even more popular than Bruno.
Maybe. I mean, before our time, definitely. But no, I don't remember seeing much of him after early '80s.
All right, let's get to it. The next match, Money Inc. Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster defending their WWF Tag Team title versus the Mega Maniacs, Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. We get another ref bump. Ref is accidentally knocked out. Hogan recovers, attacks both members of Money Inc. with Beefcake's face mask, which was in storyline sort of real life deal. Tried to make the cover for the pinfall. The referee is still unconscious. So manager Jimmy Hart, in a stunning move, turns his jacket inside out, revealing a striped referee jacket. Who wrote this shit? Made the 3 count and declared the Mega Maniacs winners, brother. Referee Danny Davis comes into the ring, disqualifies Hogan for using the face mask as a weapon. Money Inc. wins the match and retains their championship. But the Mega Maniacs, of course, throw them out of the ring and even have Jimmy Hart throwing Danny Davis out of the ring, the referee. I'll throw it to Hulk Hogan biographer Andrew Gruthius first for his thoughts on the match.
The match was bloody awful.
Say bloody awful?
Bloody awful.
Bloody awful?
Bloody awful. Number one, we knew that... Beefcake was never a great wrestler to begin with. He was good, but he wasn't great, and we know he had to be very careful because his accident was real, so he wasn't going to give you much. Hogan had been out of the ring for a year. He was half the man he was before. Obviously, he had stopped doing, stopped juicing because he was he had to be at least 40 or 50 pounds lighter than he was a year earlier. He had the Shiner, which was on everybody, which you couldn't escape, and it was almost like... number one, they had no chemistry. IRS and DiBiase are always good, but they did not look good here.
Yes.
They did not look good here because of who they were fighting. They were fighting a tag team that had never been a tag team before. There's a reason they call people tag team specialists, and Hogan and Beefcake were not them. I hated the idea of Jimmy Hart being with Hogan, and I still hate that to this day. Because Jimmy Hart was and always will be one of the best heel managers ever. Now it seems like he's been a face for longer than he was ever a heel. But you're forgetting one little part of that match that kind of negates something they did earlier in the night. Remember when Money Inc. decided they didn't want to fight anymore, so they started walking, and then Howard Finkel, or Finkus Maximus, announces that the referee has said that if Money Inc. doesn't return to the ring and gets counted out, they will forfeit the titles. So much for that rule.
Yeah, I told you I was only going to go over the ending, and then you could. But
but my point is, just 3 matches earlier, they made a point to say that the titles can't change hands. Well, all of a sudden now, because Hogan's in the ring, they can. So obviously it was meant to do what it did. So they come in, and then the ending, and I mean, for God's sake, we'll get into more of that towards the end, but you don't have putting Hulk Hogan in a tag team match at WrestleMania was their first mistake. And I remember not being excited for this when I saw it, because I remember asking myself, why isn't he fighting for the title? Because that's
well, aren't they? Look, stepping away objectively, clearly here, they're trying to, perhaps unsuccessfully, transition Hogan, probably, I'm assuming, to a high level but mid card, and they want to expose, I won't even say younger talent, but other talent to the top here. And we'll talk about the main event in a little bit, right?
Yes, but that's a near impossible task.
Well, I guess I agree with you. Look, there's no build up, or it was poor. The Shiner.
Well, there was a little build up. There was a little build up, but at the end, you still have to put on a good match, and they just didn't. There was that whole build up. There was that whole build up with Money Inc. on Raw. We're going to smash Brutus's face, and then Jimmy Hart saved him, and then Hogan came back the next week and announced that he was coming back, and blah blah blah. So there was a little bit of a build up. At least there was that. But then you got to back it up with a match, and this was anything but a wrestling match.
What did you think of the pop from the crowd when Hulkster comes out? What do you think? It was
a typical late '80s, early '90s pop. I mean, it was obvious they were happy to have him back. Of course, I'm always happy to hear that Hogan pop. But then, if you look at it, I mean, he's almost too big, even physically, for that. The ring looked smaller. Everything looked smaller, yet the wrestlers were the same size. So it just had a weird look to it. And seeing Hogan look so much different than he had a year earlier, the longer hair, it didn't look right. It had a very awkward feel to it. The whole time he was out there, I did not enjoy, and I didn't enjoy it then either. I'm like, this is not. It's not funny. It's not fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I hated it.
I felt like the match, there was a lot of repetitive punching, a lot of the $1 Million Dream was on for 3 minutes. It just felt like I agree with you. The action was not great. You're gonna get your typical Hulk up at the end. Here's where I thought the announcer, like Bobby the Brain Heenan, always comes through on a Hogan match. That hatred of Hulkster.
Yeah.
I thought Bobby added a little bit of spice to the match with an impassioned call. You're getting another stupid ref bump. At the end, I'm not going to believe Jimmy Hart's going to take Danny Davis and throw him out of the ring. So for me, this one didn't age too well.
That jacket thing, I mean, fuck you. How stupid do they think we are? Come on. Right? I mean, with Jimmy Hart with the ref jacket under. Come on, screw you. Go to hell. Why? That's the best you could come up with? Give me a break. You've got Hulk Hogan in the ring coming back, your biggest star ever, and that's what you're going to do? That's the big novelty? Screw you. Whoever's booking that shit. Bruce Pritchard, if it was you, screw you.
On that happy note, let's go to our next match. It's the narcissist Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect. Lex Luger accompanied to the ring by 4 beautiful bikini. Oh, they have aged well because they look good. Bikini girls.
Boing.
Luger, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Luger pins Perfect, though Perfect's feet were on the ropes.
Yes.
The referee did not see them. Luger continues to attack Perfect after the match. Jacks him up with his forearm, which contains a steel plate, as a result of a legitimate motorcycle accident. And then Perfect gets up, chases Luger, but was attacked by Shawn Michaels in a backstage broom closet. That's a joke. I'll throw it to my partner. You got 2 big names here, Lex Luger, Mr. Perfect. What'd you think of the match, Andy?
The match was okay. You've got, Perfect made Luger look good. Luger was never great in the ring, but he was to me, he was always great everywhere else. I'm a huge Luger fan, always have been. I did not like this gimmick though, for whatever reason. I didn't. I like him better as a face. I always have. He's one guy who I didn't like him as a heel. I liked him better as a face. This match could have been great, and I always loved Perfect Kurt Hennig as a heel. And here their positions are reversed, and it didn't quite help. It didn't help with the story. Like, it would have been better if it was the other way around. But Perfect did a good job, especially selling that ending, which was a weak ending. He did his best, and it was a passable match. It would be considered the highlight of a Raw, but not a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know?
First of all, the opening promo, Mr. Perfect, he totally craps it and just gets saved by Mean Gene.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. He was probably so high on coke at the time.
And, the narcissist, now upon reflection, that could have been perhaps a great gimmick. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like it at the time, but now, I don't know, 50 years, I'm 50. I don't know. I feel like if handled correctly, maybe toned down a little bit, but a guy who's completely into himself could have been perhaps a cool gimmick. I don't know.
I don't think he milked it for enough for what it was worth. He kind of looks bored by it. But if you leave it with him, you don't need the women as much as I enjoy them. You didn't need all that. You didn't need the mirror stuff. You just needed an arrogant heel. He was good enough, on the mic, and good enough as a presentation to be that. You didn't need all the props. You
didn't like the mirrors with the Hancock, New York fireworks spray coming out of them.
Actually, no, I didn't like that. You know me, and you know me and my fireworks. They got to go big or go home, man. No, I felt it was distracting. That's why I liked it better when even though his next gimmick was the All-American whatever, that went a little too far. But I liked that better than this, and it just again, there was no heat between the two. It was like the WWF was saying, okay, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, and now they're going to fight, cheer, boo, whatever you want. There was no backstory, there was nothing leading up to it, no heat. So there was nothing to invest in, except because this was the era where you needed that. Back in the first couple of WrestleManias, you didn't quite need that. It was such a spectacle in and of itself just to see it. Because I looked through the card of the first WrestleMania, and there's not much heat between those matches, but they were good wrestling matches. Here is when you need build-ups for everything. You can't just throw something together the night before. And that's what WrestleMania 9, most of it anyway, seems like, including this match.
I thought Mr. Perfect came out to the biggest pop of the night.
Yes.
Opened up with some decent chain wrestling. These are two guys, I think pretty much right in their prime. Some spots missed. Match ended a little bit sloppy. I also, not bad, but not very good. I actually thought the Michaels assault in the broom closet afterwards was better than the overall match. He actually laid into him pretty good.
Yes.
Mr. Perfect. He took that garbage and slammed him right over the head.
Yes, and they ran with that for a little bit. They had a feud for a while, and that worked. So that's what when the aftermatch and somebody else is completely out of left field upstages the actual match. That tells you a little bit about the quality of the match, don't you think?
Agreed. Let's move on. Take a breath.
I love your segues.
We got a few more. It's The Undertaker facing Giant Gonzalez. Harvey Whippleman, the manager for Giant Gonzalez.
My broadcast partner, my one-night broadcast partner.
Yes, downtown Bruno, soaked with chloroform, which Gonzalez used to knock The Undertaker unconscious. The referee disqualified Gonzalez for using a foreign object and awarded the match to The Undertaker. Andrew, this one's certainly a unique one in WrestleMania lore. Thoughts on The Undertaker against Giant Gonzalez?
Yeah, I wish they wouldn't even count this as part of The Undertaker's streak, because this was, again, another non-match. You're having Giant Gonzalez hadn't even stepped in a WWF ring before this night, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the first time anybody's really seeing him. He comes out in that gorilla suit. I know he did not have a wrestler's body, but they could have done better than that. The match was over before it started. We're too busy laughing at this puppet who's being walked to the ring by, this is the best guy. You put him with a big time manager, and maybe it would work better. But you're grabbing your lowest common denominator, Harvey Whippleman, who basically is just the guy you throw your B-level talent to. Put him with a Bobby the Brain, or put him with a Jimmy Hart, no, Jimmy was with Hogan, but put him with somebody big, and you might have something. But it was so ridiculous. And then the Undertaker coming in, they screwed up with that too. He was coming in with I don't know. He came in. His entrance was kind of weird. I forgot what it was, but I saw it. I was like, what are they doing? Oh, the Raven, the bird, the Raven. Like what are you doing?
Like that?
At this point in the night, no. At this point in the card, I was like, you know what? Just fucking wrestle, get it over with. If it was earlier in the night before the dumpster fire began, I would, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. But
my thing is with Giant Gonzalez is why did they blur out his privates on the jumpsuit?
Yeah, another mistake. See, they don't fire anybody for that, but deliver it in a garbage bag, and that gets you canned. But this was a terrible match on all levels. Shouldn't have been on the card. Should never have happened. And they couldn't have done it. Like, who looks at that in the writers' room or in whatever and say, "Oh yeah, crowd's gonna love this." Like, I remember even when we were younger watching this.
Right, but part of my notes is this was a time, and correct me when I'm wrong, when the booking du jour was let's just throw Undertaker against every big man we have in the company. And a lot of times they were against these big immobile guys. And we know maybe some 10 years later, they got a little more savvy and started booking him against either smaller guys that can move or bigger guys that are athletic, a la maybe a Lesnar or a Kane that can go a little bit with him. But early in his career, I feel like Bundy, Giant Gonzalez, it was just like throw him up against a giant, and sometimes they were stinkers. And
yeah, but it didn't. But here you have to make sure that guy is a threat, and a guy wearing a gorilla costume is not going to be a threat in the eyes of an audience. It's going to be a joke. So that's why it didn't work to me. You bring him out there, at least, put him in a fucking sweatshirt or something. I know you got to cover his body because if you look at his WCW bodies, you don't want to have that out there. I'm not one to talk, but I'm also not wrestling in front of millions of people. But to put him in that thing with the fluffy thing on the end, look, like it looked like they stopped at Party City before the thing went on. So the match was over before it started because it was already a joke. But if this Giant Gonzalez, put him in a mask if you have to, but he's got to be considered a threat. You have to be afraid of him and say, "Oh my God, how is the Undertaker going to deal with this?" But you weren't saying that because you were too busy laughing at what they had done to quote unquote El Gigante. Like here they got this guy who was a menace in WCW, and they're bringing him here, and it's a costume party. Come on, so that shows you how much pageantry really can help and hurt the matches.
The almost 8 foot tall Giant Gonzalez,
7'6" from what I understand.
I don't think he was 8. I agree with you. I mean, I called his suit a Victoria's Secret's tracksuit. I did say, Undertaker, this is early in his career, he gets a hell of a pop here from the audience. And, the match is a bore. And again, I understand what Andy's saying about, threat, but I just feel they lined up every big guy to face the Undertaker. That was sort of back in the day of the WWF, Land of the Giants, and this guy was completely immobile, couldn't hang with Mark Calloway on any level, and the match is a complete stinker and dud.
Yes. Let's move on.
Let's move on. The main event and the final match on the card.
You know what? Let's not move on.
Bret the Hitman Hart defending the WWF Championship against Yokozuna. Match sort of pinpoints, Bret's technical style versus the massive size and bulk of Yoko. Throws Yoko into an exposed turnbuckle spot, applying the sharpshooter, the signature submission, and of course we get Mr. Fuji, Yoko's manager, throwing salt in Hart's eyes, which enables to get Yoko the pin and win the WWF Championship. So let's focus on that first part first. The actual match, we know there's more shenanigans to come, but the actual match, Bret the Hitman Hart versus Yokozuna for the WWF Championship.
You'll be surprised. Good match. It shows you how great Bret Hart was in the ring. He was able to make Yoko, and Yoko was good too. All right? Yoko is underrated as a performer. We know him as this big, huge guy, but he could move, and he did a couple of high spots, especially the bonsai drop. It's tough for guys like that to get up there. And Bret Hart did a great job. Of course, the schmaz ending for is I hated that.
Let's stick.
No, I meant this. I'm talking about the salt. Talking about the salt.
Okay.
Talking about the salt.
Okay.
Unnecessary. Let these guys go. Let them. Let them get. What are you so afraid of? But
so
yeah.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but I agree with you. I really thought that open turnbuckle spot into the sharpshooter was pretty effing cool.
Yes.
I was like, whoa. Like that made sense. Like, how are you going to get this big guy down to get that move on him? And then again, I thought like the salt spot, Fuji, it's not even like trying to hide it. Like you could see him switching it from hand to, he was throwing hand.
Yeah.
It's very slow and protracted. Like it wasn't done well, and I agree with you. Certainly upon reflection, didn't need it, but even on the pure spot, it's like you can see him like take it from his pocket in one hand into the other hand, gear back and throw it. It's just, somebody at the ringside would have been able to stop him if you really are playing it in some kind of reality. So anyway,
the match itself was an entertaining match. I really did enjoy watching it again.
What do you think of the pure choice? Well, all right. Well, I guess let's get to the ending because, let's get to the ending because there's I have a couple of questions here, and then of course, Hulk Hogan, never known to be one of Bret the Hitman Hart's confidants, comes to the ring. He's helping him out. He's checking him out, and then of course, Fuji challenges Hogan to face Yokozuna immediately after the match. It's unprecedented, Groo. Fuji tries to throw salt now in Hogan's eyes, gets the miss, throws it into Yoko, leg drop, pin, 1, 2, 3. Hulk Hogan's your new champ. I got a lot of thoughts on the whole deal. I'll throw it to our official biographer of Hulk Hogan, Andrew Jackson Gruthius III. Andrew, your thoughts on now the Hogan spot and you got Hogan's your new champ.
Oh, I thought this ending was spectacular. I marked out. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. This was even for a Hogan fan, this was a nightmare. Just you can see it was the first time in rewatching it. It was the first time I can remember seeing the business through the story. I could tell that there were multiple ideas of how this thing should go. I understand the idea that they want to end the night with Hogan as the champion. I get that. Okay? They couldn't have done it worse. Not that I could do it any better, but to have it done that look, we know Bret Hart bitches and moans about everything. All right? I definitely agree. If his side of the story is true, all right, which I'm sure we'll get to, I definitely sympathize with him on this one, if only because the whole thing just sucked. I mean, if you're on the losing end of a great match and a great story, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to bitch about. But because this was so horribly produced and horribly run and just it was just one level of bad upon another, I can understand why it's so frowned upon, and me too. Like I watched it again yesterday. I'm like, what? This is the best they could do. Like, I just still don't understand it. And I remember on Pritchard's podcast, they didn't talk about why they chose to do it this way. All he would talk about was why they wanted to get the title on Hogan. And like I said, I understand that. He's still the marquee guy. Remember, at this time, the WWF didn't have a number one guy. They really didn't. They were trying with Bret Hart, but he wasn't quite cutting it because the wrestling business was not appreciating great wrestling. They needed that extra, bit of showmanship which Bret Hart really didn't have. He was only into like his first or second year as a singles guy. So I don't think they wanted to keep him as champion right then. But just, again, the way that they did it, and making him have to give Hogan his blessing, that's a super slap in the face right there. So it couldn't have been worse. Couldn't have been worse.
All right, take a breath. Let me give you my thoughts.
Well, you thought I was going to like it. Be fair.
Well, first of all, Bret looks small in this era of WWF. Like, I remember him coming out, and I agree, he's early in his run. I love, again, the open turnbuckle spot into the sharpshooter. Terrible ending. Okay. Of course, when Hogan comes out, I'm yelling, "Selfish! I'm yelling at my TV. The over the top. He's checking arm movements, head movements. Crowd. Again, I agree with you. A couple of things about the pure match itself. I mean, it doesn't make sense for me for Mr. Fuji. He's got his champ. He's won the belt. He's obese. He's blown up after a 15-minute match with Bret the Hitman Hart. Oh, now we're going to challenge Hulk Hogan? I mean, it just defies any kind of application of logic to an illogical entertainment.
If I were Yokozuna, I would have fired Fuji as my manager after that one.
Well, yeah, and then the ending, Hogan, of course, the salt is missed, leg drop. I definitely am not a fan of Bret the Hitman Hart, but I might feel a certain way about, and I know it's business, and so while people blame Hulk, and I'm not a Hulkster, Mark, like you are, Vincent Kennedy McMahon had to sign off on this, so I get that. But I'm watching it, and I guess reflecting on it as a 50-year-old who's been a wrestling fan since he's 8 or 9 years old, I could see where Bret really feels a certain way. Bret is definitely over the top with his criticisms and spare. Will take every opportunity in a shoot interview to put himself over and to crush those who've maybe maligned him or what he views as maligning, whether truthful or not, along the way. So, again, not a huge fan of Bret the Hitman Hart, but this comes across just very not good, for lack of a better word, on television. And I agree with you. You can see the business machinations happening in the ring. Like, we got to get the belt on Hogan fairly, unfairly. We're taking the spotlight from this young guy, and even Yoko, and it comes across not good. I mean, clearly, would you agree with me? In today's era with social media, they probably wouldn't do a job like that today.
No way. I agree with you 100%. Let me ask you this, though.
Okay.
I'll ask you a two-tiered question. If they actually made Hogan here, they wanted to get the title on Hogan. Do you agree that you kind of understand that and you can accept that? They needed to find a way to end the show putting the title on him. Are you okay with that idea? Even before the night, you're sitting in the writers' room.
Hold on, you asked me a question. Okay. On a pure level, yes, but let me reflect to how I feel about overall WrestleMania 9. You could see the tug of war in the card. You could start to see that they're trying, they're putting the Michaels, the Harts, the Mr. Perfects, while they still have the Hogans, and even Undertaker with these doinks, these cartoonish, they're in I felt like there's a tug of war there a little bit when I watched WrestleMania 9. They're trying some new stuff. Theme WrestleMania, during the day, togas. I give them credit. I always say I'll give you credit for trying something different. We've talked about movies.
Yeah.
I'll give a movie credit for trying something different, even if it fails. I feel like there's the tug of war there. Perhaps this could, with the Hogan injury, and maybe he's not a full-time guy, perhaps that could have been a spot where you try to run a champ. Look, nobody can dispute Hulk Hogan's popularity, so am I going to really question putting the belt on him? No, not really, but it just, it went down very poorly. I guess I'm just repeating myself.
I'm gonna rebook this briefly right now, and you tell me what you think.
Go ahead.
Okay? Now, of course, hindsight is 20/20. So,
Right.
Earlier in the night, Hogan did an interview. All right? You probably saw it, unless were you just watching the matches, or did you watch all the backstage stuff, too?
No, I watched, towards the end, I fast-forwarded.
Okay, so Hogan did an interview with, I think, Mean Gene, and he was like, he's like, I'm in Bret Hart's corner, man, but brother, whoever wins this match, I want the shot. I want the shot.
Right.
Like, he said, Bret, if you win, I'm coming after you. Yoko, if you win, I'm coming after you. Whatever. So, okay, the match goes on. You book Bret to win. And then Hogan comes out and challenges Bret. Not like a bad guy to good guy, but, hey, buddy, okay, I'm here. You want it or not? And let them have an actual match. And if you have to have Hogan win, fine, you have Hogan win, but let them have an actual match. Hart can go. Even after just going against Yoko.
Do you think? Okay, let me. I love what you're saying, but do you think, given Hogan's injury, his eyes busted up, given Hogan's that time period, he's a thin Hogan. I'm not even sure he's ready to go. Okay, do you think he could have? I mean, he can't hang with Bret. I mean, Bret's in his.
Bret would have been able to make him look good. That's how good Bret was,
right.
I think. But at least if you gave the 2, 3, or 4 minutes, okay, it would still seem longer, and you let them each get in some good spots, and then let Hulk do his Hulk out and do whatever if you have to get the thing on him just to make it right, just to make it legit. Okay, that would at least be better. But maybe Bret, I've never heard anybody talk about that as a possibility. But look, Hogan was in the ring earlier in the night, so he could at least do a couple minutes of some stuff. And Bret, can go. We've seen him go Iron Man, so he could have done it. I guess maybe they just didn't want Yoko to lose because he was their big, or lose to Bret anyway. Maybe that was the thing, but. Either way, you want that, like, if you're rebooking that, you got to have a match instead of, a 15-second drubbing of Yoko's. I mean, it was
what if they went
at Bret Hart's expense.
What if they went WCW booking style and Hogan comes out and fit to Bret Hart and then Jim Ross is like, we got to go, we'll see you tomorrow night.
That would have been better than what we got, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll tell you that, because at least it would have been funny. But what do you think?
Andrew,
wait. But before we finish, I would love to hear your thoughts about the backstage stuff. Like with that, like Hogan's side, Bret Hart's side. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I agree with your point. You can literally see the machinations of the business in the ring. Like, that's a very astute point, and that's what makes Hogan so great and so hated. And again, I will not put this all on Hulk Hogan because Vincent Kennedy McMahon had to sign off on this ending. Mm-hmm. But at some point, Hogan's you could just see him sniffing around, getting Vince's ear. I don't think it was all just hey, we're putting the it just feels that way, and you could again, I agree with you, very astute point. I give you credit. Then Bret Hart's like, yeah, go, I mean, that would never happen. I mean,
right.
If it's going to go down, let Bret be Bret at least and be like, let him walk off angry or walk out, then you're setting the stage perhaps for Bret Hogan somewhere down the line as well. Let Bret tease a mini heel. Let Bret be like, fuck this. I'm not signing off on this shit. This was my time. Go that route or something like that. But this is still in that very comic booky part, but you seeing the struggle here in WrestleMania 9, and maybe I'm digging in too deep, but I watched I was fascinated with the overall, not only the matches, but the overall presentation. They're trying some stuff new. It looks like they want to dip a little bit, not edgier, but you got some guys like the Michaels, the Harts, the Mr. Perfects, the Steiners. You got guys who are just kind of, they're gimmicks, but they're good, solid wrestlers in the ring. They're trying to perhaps move on, but they're stuck. Like you're saying, this is maybe, again, as Andy said, this is an overall down period. So you're going back to that crutch of the Hogan, and it's not just Hogan, the Hogan, the Undertaker, kind of these very broad, edgy, broad, gimmicky kind of deals, and you just see the business, the wheels turning in the ring.
But arguably, they've got their biggest star besides Hogan. They got their biggest star doing commentary, Savage.
Well, I mean, from what I've read, clearly Vince felt like Randy was past his due date, and if they were going to use Randy Savage in the ring, it was going to be sporadic. And we know that eventually he decided to leave and go to greener pastures in WCW, and he had another how many more years?
But he did wrestle WrestleMania X the year later when we were there in that great match.
Yes. Well, I mean. Again, from what I've read, Vince, I'm not saying he never in the ring, but Vince was trying to move on, and I think, like you said, there wasn't the marquee names, or in Vince's eyes, they didn't have the marquee names, so he relied, just like they do today from time to time, on the older, veteran, bigger name stars. They do it today just as well. Now, what I would say is they've gotten smarter, because when they use these veteran guys, they're going to, for the most part, hopefully use them to put over younger talent, or use them in spots where you're not going Bill Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre. When we talked about that match, I mean, I said to you on the podcast, I see no avenue where Bill Goldberg wins, and they did the right thing. McIntyre won in a 6-minute believable. Bill, got a couple of moves in, and then he's done. That's kind of how I would use it. But this was a different time. But to your point about the business, you could just see in the ring, you could see the backstage, the anger, and you could see Vince. You could just see them all powwowing and trying to somehow, or Vince just said, this is how it's going to go down.
I have one final question for you, and I think you'll find it very interesting. So here, Bret Hart clearly agrees to do business. Okay, he may be not happy about it, but he did. He says go. He drops the title to Yoko. Okay, then he's out there. Hogan comes in, and Bret clearly says, "Go fight, go fight, go fight." He's doing business. He's not happy about it, but he's doing business. If this ends a different way, where Bret Hart doesn't have to do that, and he saves face a little bit, does the Montreal Screwjob happen? Or does Bret choose to do business that night and do the right thing and drop the title to Shawn?
Wow.
It's a tough question,
great
right?
What if?
Yeah.
But knowing what I know about Bret Hart and what he put into his character, now you can look at it a lot of different ways. He really, really, really believed it. A guy like me is throwing a little bit of, I look at it sort of hypocritically a little bit. So, knowing what I know about Bret, I don't think he's ever going to choose to do business willingly. So even though here he's doing business, he's a lot younger, and I just feel like he's probably doing, at this point, he's got not a lot of pull backstage, and he's doing what he's told to do. I don't think he's rubber stamping it. Let me just read you this. Bret Hart later claimed that during a conversation with Vince McMahon, he was told that Hulk Hogan refused to drop the WWF Championship to him. However, Hulk Hogan stated that during a conversation with Vince McMahon, a deal was made for Hogan to drop the belt to the top heel at the time, which was Yokozuna, at the following King of the Ring. All three men eventually wound up in a meeting where McMahon outlined the plan to have Hogan drop the belt to Yoko, and denied telling Bret that Hogan refused to drop the championship to him. Any thought about those comments? I mean, Bret's claiming...
I can certainly see it happening. I could, as much as I love Hogan, I know that he's a businessman first, and he looks out for number one, which is him, and he probably I could see him doing that. At the same time, there's no proof that actually happened because both Vince and Hogan have denied it. The only one saying anything about it is Bret Hart. And Bret, as we know, has his own way of looking at things. So I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. Because how can Hogan drop the title to... so you're saying that the idea was Bret should beat Yoko at WrestleMania, and then... or Hogan... Oh,
well, it sounds like...
No, it sounds like they were setting up to... Hogan, Bret wanted Hogan to drop the belt to him at King of the Ring. Instead, it was going to be Yoko.
Yes, it sounds like there may have been conversation to do business. Now, I think your point was an interesting one. If they pivoted to Bret winning the match and then somehow tangling with Hogan, or to my point, which I just thought of right off the bat, which was, I'm not going to sign off on this match. You have Yoko win, and Bret's not going to sign off on it. He gets to leave kind of with a little bit of shine, and now you've planted the seeds perhaps for Hogan, Bret Hart somewhere down the line in a WWF ring, but Bret Hart's claiming Hogan, refused to do business, which Vince is saying was not true. I love how I talk about this like I was in the room.
Yeah,
like you refused to do business.
I've heard nothing. The only place I've heard that Hogan was unwilling to do business is from Bret Hart. Now, of course, we know that Hogan has a sketchy history of manipulating these kinds of things, so maybe it did happen, or maybe it did happen exactly like that. Very possible. Either way, Bret was still an employee, and you got to do what the boss says. Otherwise, you take,
Well, he did.
walk. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Here he did.
Here he did. Later, he didn't, and that cost him.
Okay, but that's for another. We've discussed
But that's my point. But I would say Hogan probably did set it up that way. Much as I love Hogan, I think he probably did set it up that way. I have to think that he did.
That's a fascinating, to talk about. Could Hogan and Bret Hart? You could have went a million ways with it. You could have used him to put Bret the Hitman Hart over. You could have had him win and reestablish himself as a major, sort of, mega face champion, dominant champion. So there's a lot of what ifs. A lot of what ifs there, and I agree with you. I don't know if Bret would come out and completely fib or lie. I don't see any reason for that. And knowing what we know about Hogan, again, I always go back to that story, that documentary with him and Shawn Michaels, and one of the WWE officials, I forget who it was, but he said, man, the backstage was intense, trying to work out the endings, trying to work it, because these two guys do business. They are protective of their legacies, and nobody wants to lay down for the other one. And that's what makes them annoying and assholes, and that's what makes them great too.
Yeah, and I think that I can't say that Hogan is wrong here, but does it make him a dick if you're working with him? Of course. That's there's good and bad everywhere, and it doesn't make me any less of a fan of his. Doesn't make me any less of a fan of Bret Hart. I think that maybe Hogan was afraid of how he would look against Bret Hart. Would you buy that?
I just said to you. I mean, your notion of having Bret win versus Yoko and then Hogan coming in. That was my point. If you're not going to run a quick schmaz, which wouldn't be believable against Bret the Hitman Hart. Hogan's not going to come in and drop a leg drop on Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah, you got to give him a few minutes.
So, my thing was, I don't know if Hogan, especially, remember, he's hurt. He's got the eye injury. I don't think he was very active at this point.
He wasn't.
He was not in great ring shape. Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You said Bret could have made him look.
I'm saying from Hogan's perspective, he was probably afraid.
I agree. It's just like Billy Joel not hitting the high notes. Maybe he didn't have confidence. I don't think Hulk Hogan at that point maybe thought I could hang with Bret, on a 15-minute deal. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. So
I'll go with that.
Yeah, let's go. The overall reception for Mania 9 grew. The event was attended by over 16,000 fans. Paid a total of $1.1 million in admission fees. Pay-per-view drew a 2.3 buy rate, which was lower than the previous year, 2.8 buy rate. It was, however, higher than the buy rates for any of the 4 following WrestleMania. So that gives credence to Andy's comments that this is certainly a down period in World Wrestling Federation. What was the reviews? Well, as we've sort of intimated, WrestleMania 9 received overwhelmingly negative reviews. Slam Wrestling, John Powell stated, aside from the Intercontinental and Tag Team Championship matches and the scantily clad women who accompanied Lex Luger, the rest of the broadcast was poor. He also criticized many of the outfits worn for the event, notably Jim Ross's toga and Giant Gonzalez's, spray-painted bodysuit. Let's see here. R.D. Reynolds, owner of the website WrestleCrap, as inducted the event.
Oh, man. I want that name.
I'm aware of WrestleCrap. Inducted the event in the site's list of the very worst in pro wrestling. He cites Giant Gonzalez. He even cites Papa Shango, which I don't think he was active in this.
He wasn't.
Luger's narcissist gimmick and Jim Ross wearing a toga for his reasons for including the event in the very worst of pro wrestling list. The WWE Group has placed 2 events from WrestleMania 9 in its top 50 WrestleMania moments. Want to care to guess the 2 moments from WrestleMania 9 that made it into its top 50?
Okay.
I will give you a clue. One of them is not an actual in-ring moment.
Okay. I will go with...
You always love trying to guess shit like this on the podcast.
I'll guess Heenan on the camel.
And what is your choice number 2?
There's nothing in the ring. I mean, they can't put that. They can't.
No. One was not in the ring.
One is in the ring. One is in the ring.
Yes, sir.
All right. I guess since the WWE has never came out and admitted how bad the ending was, I'll say Hogan getting the title.
Ding, ding, ding!
I got it right. I knew
got
it.
Both of them.
I got both of them?
Yes.
Wow.
Bobby the Brain Heenan's backward entrance on the camel, which the company calls one of the most hilarious moments in WWE history, and Hulk Hogan's title victory, top 50. Wow.
Damn.
That's a curious... I mean, Hogan, boy.
I told you. I said they've never actually come out and said, or at least no one in there has referred to this as one of their... low moments. They embrace it, which I guess is okay.
So, Andy, I guess let me go to you as we begin to wrap it up. I've said Mania 9 here feels like a crossroad. You're struggling. I have in my notes the cartoonish days to the more athletic in-ring workers like Perfect, Michaels, Hart. It will always be, in my mind, a unique Mania, probably better known for its misses than some small successes. What are your final thoughts as you take a step back on WrestleMania 9?
2 things. First of all, I think the combination of a weak card, weak roster, coupled with a new kind of setting, didn't do it any favors. The outdoor setting, the smaller venue, Vegas, it just the pageantry, all of that. It seemed like they were trying to cover for the fact that there wasn't much to go on in the ring, and it just didn't work. The 2 things didn't mesh, so I think that has haunted it. You put these same matches in a traditional arena, dark lights, pyro. I think it gets a little better. Not much, but it gets better than it was. But my second thing is, and this is off of one of your points. You said that WrestleMania 9 had a lower buy rate than the ones before it. And the ones... No. It had a lower buy rate than WrestleMania 8. Right.
But it was higher than the next 4 Manias.
Okay, higher than the next 4 Manias. So, here's my theory on that. Remember, you've got Hulk Hogan, who has main evented every Mania through 1 through 8. Okay? This is the first one ever that he's not main eventing, at least on the card. Okay, no one saw that ending coming, except maybe the devil himself. But you have, so this is Hogan being in the middle in a match that nobody wants to see, and then he's gone after that.
Right.
So he's not in the next few WrestleManias. So maybe there's some correlation there. Hulkamania was WrestleMania, at least in the beginning. Now, to WWE's credit, they were finally able to move on without him, and they brought him back at the perfect time. But I would correlate it with that. They were really moving away, or trying to move away from the Hulka WrestleMania era. And it was a tough transition. It was a tough turning of the corner, and this was the casualty. This WrestleMania was the casualty, because I think the next year LT and Bam Bam 11. No, 10.
That was Mania 10.
Yeah, that was a big jump back. Because that was a great show.
I have to teach Andrew to kind of wrap it up.
What?
Like we were just ready to close, and then and then Mania 10. Now I got to discuss Mania 10. I've said we got to work on our.
Well, I just have so much fun doing this.
No. I will say,
and I don't have anywhere to be today, so.
Well, I don't either, but I got to eat and got to shower. But here's what I will say: I think your point about Hulk Hogan, this is it. He's gone.
Yeah.
So I think that the buy rates for the next couple of Manias are down. Sir, I give a lot of credence to that. So what do you think to my point about here's where they start to struggle, though? Here's where they're trying to transition. Any thoughts on that?
I think
they're transitioning from the cartoonish days to the sort of more modern, in-ring product being more heightened.
I guess maybe in some backwards way they were thinking, all right, in order to move on from the cartoon, we've got to make this one as cartoony as possible to get to the absolute bottom and then to climb our way back out. I don't know. That's a tough question. Like I said before, I think this was the turning point, and this was the casualty. They needed to hit rock bottom, no pun intended, in order to sort of reboot. And I kind of think that's what they did. What they really needed to do was, and I hate to say this, but they needed to say goodbye to Hogan for a while. And that broke my heart then, and it still breaks my heart now. But when a guy's time is up, his time is up.
Okay, thank you, Mickey James.
Well, when Hogan left, did they send him his gear in a garbage bag? Because he didn't tweet. He didn't tweet about it.
Well, there was no tweeting back then. I'm sure he didn't.
But
care.
I do have one final question for you, though.
Please,
okay, because I don't know.
I love you, but I'm trying to wrap these up professionally.
All right, I don't know if you answered it or not.
Go ahead.
In your heart, in your mind, what do you think was the cause of Hogan's eye injury?
I said it during the podcast. I mean, your point is very well taken. Is a jet ski accident going to be an eye deal? Like everybody else, could I see it being legitimate that way? And I know Hogan, from what I know, he lived in Florida. He was a water guy, a beach guy, Venice Beach. So I could see some credence to that. I'm like everybody else, like Groo. I've seen the documentaries. I've seen the Beyond the Rings and all the Vice, and there's certainly something there to the very complicated relationship with Hogan and Macho Man and the wives, and I've seen all those documentaries. I'm not going to. Could I see that happening? Absolutely. I don't know, and quite honestly, at this point, I don't care. But I mean, there's definitely enough there that could that have been the deal? Yes. I mean, I think looking back at Mania 9, could they have used it maybe even better or more creatively? They just sort of breaking news, Hulk Hogan. They just sort of had it there. Perhaps they could have weaved a more.
Well, that's why I think it was something outside of, it was something unexpected.
Right, I think it happened. Like they were just aware of it that morning.
Yeah,
perhaps, or
it was like the day before, or the night before, or something.
Yeah,
I think Savage popped him. I'm going with that
All right,
because
well.
if you I promise we'll end with this, but if you went back through it, Savage is so over the top. He's almost overselling Hogan as a commentator. He is up his ass on this, and it reminds me of like the Shawn Michaels sell job at the SummerSlam match that they had. It's like Savage seemed to be going the extra mile to put Hogan over, almost to an embarrassing point. So I'm going to stick with that. I think he and Savage got into it.
All right, so let's sum it up. WrestleMania 9, rock bottom,
Yes.
Savage up Hogan's ass, and yes. Yes, Macho did hit Hogan square in the mush, and therefore. So, we hope everybody enjoyed it. That was our Nothing Worthwhile WrestleMania 9 review. Andrew, our next show, who knew that on August 10th, 1993, The River of Dreams would be Billy Joel's last pop music album? But Groo, it was. What were the circumstances behind the recording of the album? Was The River of Dreams considered a quality Billy Joel album? And what were the details surrounding the following tour? Find out next at our next show as Moody and Groo will break down and discuss Billy and Joel. Groo, River of Dreams.
Very excited to take our river of cream down the river of dreams. Oh, God. All right. That was bad. No. Next week, am I taking us out now? Was that, or you just asked me?
Yes.
Hard
camera left. Hard camera right.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week,
Am I looking at the monologue?
We'll do it live.
Give us a quick.
Look, we talk about
River
this
Dreams.
stuff.
Interesting topic.
And we've, look, after all these years of being fans of guys like Billy Joel and Springsteen the way we are, we think we know everything. But as you know, you and I learned some stuff a couple weeks ago on our trip back from listening. What are you laughing at? What's so fun? What?
Well, apparently what Groo's referencing is on our journey to and from Tampa, we listened to Liberty DeVito's, the former Billy Joel, longtime member of Billy Joel's band, his book.
Yeah.
And we'll get into specifics, and there's a lot of criticism to be had of Billy. I'm sure we'll get to it, but boy, Liberty pretty much. I think Liberty discovered everything that was big in Billy Joel's career, and actually said, "Billy, no, you're not a drummer. You play the piano."
Like Eddie and Alex Van Halen.
Liberty is literally the Forrest Gump of Billy Joel's career. Every single key element, Liberty took credit for. So I'm only laughing because while I think there's probably a lot of criticism on all. Listen, these are complicated relationships. Listening to Liberty's audio book, the only thing that struck, I think you agree with me, we were like, damn, Liberty takes a lot of credit for like everything Billy Joel world.
Yeah, he even took credit for his bris, which is very strange.
Right.
But I think that what we learned about the actual making of River of Dreams to me is fascinating.
It's going to be fun.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. We're not going to ruin anything now. So I'm really looking forward to this. I look forward to them all, but Billy Joel is a never-ending, fascinating tour. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I just read he's apparently announced one live date, some kind of motor speedway thingy.
I didn't read that.
Yeah, there's
let's go. Let's go and complain about it like we love to do.
No, I don't know. Yeah, you're probably going to get with those special appearances. Yeah. That you're getting $130 and you're getting just pretty. I don't want to griff on. I griffed on Howard. I don't want to griff on Billy either. These are my heroes.
And you did take it easy on Hogan for me today, so thank you for that.
Well, I did say when he's pinning Bret Hart, I'm like, you selfish mom! Like really screaming at his screen.
Yeah,
selfish. I mean, I was more interested in Groo, the YouTube video on how to actually get the Peacock Network. The actual Hogan history.
Yeah, well, you did it. You pulled it off. You pulled it off.
Download. I was like, it worked.
It's like an illegal thing to do, yet both WWE and Peacock are telling you to do it. Side-loading it onto the Fire Stick.
So
that's what I had to do also.
Last question. So the Peacock Network, they've not signed some kind of deal to be disseminated on a major carrier or maybe?
No, they're on most things. They're on Apple TV. They're on, I think, most TVs. For some reason, them and Amazon haven't struck a deal yet. But that happened with HBO Max as well. HBO Max launched, and then several weeks later, it came onto the Fire Stick. They got to strike deals with because they are competitors. I mean, Peacock is a competitor of Amazon Prime. And so they're all competitors. So it does take time to reach deals about those things.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? You'll watch this week the Macho Man A&E biography. Well, maybe they'll.
The Roddy Piper biography was excellent. I'm looking forward to
Stone Cold was just as good too, man. Stone, great.
Yes,
great, good production. All right, brother, take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking this trip down with us back to Vegas, 1993, WrestleMania IX, dumpster fire that it was. As always, it's still enjoyable to talk about and watch, no matter how bad or good it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it on the show. And next week, speaking of bad for good, the River of Dreams, Billy Joel, his final album, Upside Down ? Maybe, who knows? You never know. Never say never in this era. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you for being with us, and we will see you next week. And until then, Evan, you ready? 1,
let's do it.
2, 3.
Boom! Whack, whack. Fincus Maximus.